Good evening, Internet, and welcome back to Kenter at Your Own Risk. This is going to be episode 56, where Kent, Kevin, and Chris discuss Masters of Horror, the Showtime show, Season 1. How are you guys doing? I've had a pretty good holiday and into January.
Oh yeah, we last talked like late December, right?
Yeah, I think it was right before New Year's, wasn't it?
Yeah, like the 20th, 29th, something like that. That sounds right. You know what? January's been kind of like a weird blur of sorts, to be perfectly honest. Like, I think I got myself a little consumed with football season, and then unconsumed by that. And, yeah, I don't know. I got into, some games and stuff, which I'll get into, at the end of the podcast. But otherwise, it's been not so bad. Today it snowed a lot. Like, rained and snowed. I don't know. Kevin, did you get rain or snow or a mixture?
We had a mixture, and it is coming down pretty heavy right now. Probably like the last 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
Yeah, I'm looking out in the parking lot, and I can definitely see some accumulation on all the vehicles. So, yeah, good times. But, yeah, to answer your question, I don't know. I really have no idea what the hell I've been doing other than just trying to get some stuff together. So, there.
I miss the snow that you guys are having, because when it rains in Florida, it just looks like any other day the rest of the year.
Chris, if you feel sad, just think it can't rain all the time.
Yeah, I know. I know, man.
I always love that scene in The Crow. Like, will they try to get that line in the remake, you think?
It's really like one of Eric Draven's, like iconic lines, so I'm hoping so.
I really hope so.
The other part of that is I don't know when the hell they're going to film it, because like Bill Skarsgård is just like stacked with what he's got, on his plate in regards to, upcoming stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a hefty role. Huh.
Oh, well. I'm managing expectations on it, but yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, who knows? I'm really not even trying to think about it, but you would imagine that if it's going to be like the movie, it should have that line in it, or at least a reference to it. Maybe not even as big of a deal as, because it's like a song on the record or something, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, like, the other thing is, like, the fact that every single, like, crow is a different one. I don't know why they keep trying to go back to, like, Eric Draven over and over again. They could just do a different story with a different character. And, you wouldn't have to, I don't want to say shit on the legacy, but, screw with the legacy, of Brandon Lee's last movie.
Right. I mean, just like something like Green Lantern, where there was however many Green Lanterns, like, if you had a good Green Lantern, you could just leave that one good one alone. Same with the Crow.
I mean, especially because they go back to death when it's over. So, I mean, it's not like he sticks around, he goes, gets his revenge, and then, or justice, and then disappears.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to throw off on that tangent. Kevin, you're doing okay?
Yeah, where do you go after Edward Furlong, right?
I didn't watch the show at all, but yeah. Yes.
You know what? That's funny, because
It's just a movie, right?
I'm going to bring up Edward Furlong later on tonight.
Yeah, that was, I bought the box set when they had the four of them come out together in one, and the decline in quality from 1 through 4 was just fucking horrible.
Abysmal. And the soundtracks were the same. Like, the first one was great, the second one was definitely lower in quality, and then after that, oof. Yeah.
Like the Prophecy all over again.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, at least some of the later Prophecy movies had some interesting stuff, even though they didn't have the cast or the budget. But, like, even the David Boreanaz as the it was David Boreanaz and Tara Reid, right, as the villains to Edward Furlong's version of The Crow.
It's been so long.
Yeah,
I'm like,
can't vouch for that.
Yeah, Angel and one of the chicks from American Pie as the bad guys to Terminator 2. It was bad. It was bad. Anyways, so yeah, we're gonna go through season 1 of Masters of Horror. Then we'll do our lists where we give them rankings based upon how we enjoyed them, and then we'll do our normal thing every month of talking over what we've done since the last podcast we did. And I think we're throwing it over to Kevin for episode number 1, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right off the bat, Masters of Horror, episode 1. Incident on and off a mountain road, directed by Don Coscarelli. Short story by Joe R. Lansdale. Teleplay by Don Coscarelli and Stephen Romano. The original air date is October 28th, 2005. And after getting into an accident and hitting an abandoned vehicle, Ellen, played by Bree Turner, checks to see if the other driver is all right. She finds a trail of blood leading into the forest and which leads to being chased by a deformed and really tall serial killer, played by John DeSantis. Through a series of flashbacks, we see Ellen getting trained by her survivalist husband, Bruce, played by Ethan Embry, and getting trained in using weapons and guerrilla tactics. Despite her skills, she gets captured and brought to the killer's workshop. After awakening in a basement surrounded by corpses, and Buddy, played by Angus Scrimm, a delusional old man that is imprisoned but unharmed by the killer, aka Moonface. This episode has it all. It's a great first one. It's mysterious with giving explanations that aren't cheesy. It's a basic, straight-up story that unravels nicely between the flashbacks and the action of the cat and mouse chase between Ellen and Moonface. Also, there is a great twist revealed with a very brutal flashback, and it all comes together nicely, equally satisfying with story and the gore. Alright, I'm going to hand it over to you guys.
I'll ask one question. Would you have been satisfied with that story still if we didn't have that last twist of what's in Ellen's trunk? Would the story still have been good enough to keep you intrigued? Because I want to say yes. Like, I love the cherry on top. I love what's in her trunk. But I thought the story was great up to that point even.
I agree. It just made it all the better.
Yeah.
And more brutal. And it really took... And it kind of like sets it up, not to get to the other episodes, but it's a good start to like, yes, this is going to get kind of fucked up, you know?
So I think out of the three of us, I'm the only one who'd never seen any of them at all. You know, I was going into this whole podcast blind on all of them. And I fucking love this one, man. This was such a good start to the series. The twists were great. The writing was well done. You know, she wasn't a Mary Sue. You know, they gave her, you know, reasons for why she was doing, you know, attempting to fight back, you know, and fighting back successfully, but she didn't succeed at everything. Like, she shoots herself with a fucking crossbow that she tries to hit Moonface with. So I would have liked it without the twist at the end. I liked it with the twist at the end. I did read where they were doing an interview with Don Coscarelli, you know, at some point after he did this one, and he was like, "Oh, you know what? I think she's going to be fine psychologically after this is all over." And I'm like, I don't think you come back from what she went through and what she did and go back to like normal life with no issues after that. But maybe that's just me.
There's just a few moments that may be emotionally scarring for the rest of her life. Maybe. That's funny. Yeah, I didn't want to say because I figured you'd touch on it, Chris, but yeah, I love the fact that she was not the helpless damsel in distress. Like, that's the kind of girl I like in some of my horror movies. I don't want them in all of them, but this was a refreshing reminder that you can do a good female character that doesn't have to be obnoxiously girl power, but just, we saw the training, we saw everything, the story made sense. I found something interesting in that, I want to say 7 months or so after this was released, on May 19th of 2006, we got another film starring a very large, hulking, pasty white, bald man who used awesome bladed weapons, and that movie was called See No Evil. I've just kind of found that weird how close together those two movies came out, and how the antagonist was very, very similar. I mean, if you look at Moonface, he looks a lot like Kane, really. So, I don't know, I liked that. I loved Angus Scrimm. Like, he makes me laugh. He like, his singing, he wants candy. I don't know, Angus Scrimm can't do any wrong, as far as I'm concerned. And I liked the visual of the light going through the skulls, like the scarecrows that they had and stuff. I thought visually that all worked really, really, really well.
I don't know. Like, for me, the weakest part of this episode was Angus Scrimm.
You make me sad with your words.
Like, well, I really like Angus Scrimm. Like, the Tall Man is one of my favorite villains, and you know, I if we had done a top 25 icons, he would have been in my list, you know, somewhere. But I just feel like Buddy could have been played by you know, any older actor, and it wouldn't have taken anything away from, you know, the episode.
I would agree with that, actually.
And incidentally, I just think that this is also one of the longest titles I've ever for anything that we've done. Incident on and off a mountain road. Like, I was trying
It's a mouthful.
trying to get it to just fit on one. I had to lower the font on my thing, the list I was making.
Do you guys think that they started off, I don't know, this is an odd way to put it, did they start off too strong, knowing that they had 13 episodes? I would have done like one of the middle of the road ones. I wouldn't have started this strong, to be perfectly honest.
Well, no, you got to start strong. I mean, you got to start strong because you got to keep people interested. If you do a middle of the road one and then you do a couple of those, like, it's got to be strong. So I think they picked a perfect strong one because it's not too strong. It's not, and we'll get to those later, but, you know, Summer, this is very captivating, like, the whole way. The action, even Ethan Embry's terrible racist character, which is kind of weird because I don't really see him play those characters, at least definitely up until, or before 2005, you know? He's like the stoner kid from Empire Records, like, almost forever, or
The clueless one in That Thing You Do, you know.
Yeah, and Can't Hardly Wait also was, I mean, so very different and very well played, and this is probably where he started going into more like character actor work than being the lead and being a romantic lead anyways. But that's my answer. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, like, I think when you're doing something like this that you don't know it's going to be a hit, you want it to be. You probably don't throw out your strongest one, but you throw out a stronger one, and you like, looking through the list of everybody who made, you know, directed one of the episodes in season 1, you probably have John Carpenter as the most well-known name, but, I mean, Don Coscarelli isn't quite on that level, but he's still one of the better-known names for the directors that they had for the episodes in season 1. So having him kick it off is probably a good idea. In addition, I mean, it's not easy to make a great slasher, but it's hard to fuck up a slasher to the point. Yeah, so, like, it's usually a pretty safe bet to pop one of these out. versus some of the more experimental ones that they have later on in the season.
Yeah, that seems fair.
All right, you guys got anything else to say about episode 1?
Did you think it was too strong, Kent?
Yes. I would have gone for something more middle of the road, because I think the people that were going to watch this, as long as you give them an average or above average, they're going to keep watching. Like, any horror fan that had Showtime was still going to watch it. So do you have to go in with your... If I don't know, I feel comfortable saying one of your top 5. Not to give away anybody's list, but I do feel like it could be argued it's at least top 5. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a little too strong, but it's okay too. Like, because I don't know. I guess we'll kind of see how we feel about the next 2. Maybe you really did need a super strong one. I don't know. So, I liked it though.
Yeah, this is definitely gets 2 thumbs up for me.
Yeah.
All right, I guess moving on then to episode number 2, Dreams in the Witch House, which I'm going to take. It was directed by Stuart Gordon, written by Mick Garris and Dennis Paoli, based on a story by H.P. Lovecraft. Stars... I think that IMDb is a little broken here because it lists Ezra Godden, Campbell Lane, and Jay Brazeau, but I would almost say Sheila Horsdale had a bigger part than Jay Brazeau or Campbell Lane. But Ezra Godden is definitely the main character. And it's the story of a college student, Walter Gilman, renting a very cheap room in a boarding house / apartment building, old house falling apart. And as it turns out, the house and the room specifically that he's in are haunted by a old witch and her man-faced rat familiar, and they end up driving Walter crazy, killing and eating a child probably closer to a baby, in the room next door. Nobody makes it out happy in the end. It was pretty good. One of the things I was interested about, and I think you guys both said you didn't watch it, was this one was also had the same story done in Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. But
I saw that.
Okay, well, instead of the updated, modern version that they did for this one, that was more on nose with the actual story, although that was still changed a little bit.
Did you prefer this or that one?
I don't know. I mean, I liked both of them. Neither one of them were what I would consider one of the top episodes for either of the series that they were made in.
Agreed.
But neither were they near the bottom. I do think, if you can get the atmosphere right for a period piece like the one in Cabinet of Curiosities, which I don't think they nailed with that one, I think it sets up a scarier story. But this one, the modern period lent itself well because there were just some questionable decisions. I was like the neighbor who has no job, is barely affording to live in the place, can barely afford food. It's just hey, I need to go for a job. Can you interview? I've met you yesterday. Can you watch my baby for me
right
while I'm gone?
Yeah. No, that blew my mind, and I kind of forgot that part. But as I was writing, I'm like, really? You just met this fucking guy who's a fucking in college, and you're just like, my baby. Yeah, I trust you. It's a weird thing.
I mean, not to mention that that landlord by himself is one. I wouldn't feel. I'd be like, does this guy have fucking like peepholes or cameras into my room? Because
Yes. Yes, he does.
yeah,
What's his face from Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
Carl?
Yeah.
So I think they did a pretty decent job with the story. The acting, I think, was pretty on point. The special effects, I think, in this one are where it gets let down, and not too badly. I mean, for what I'm assuming the budget was, but there were definitely things that could have been done better. I like the ending. I like the twists at the ending. And I'm like, that like that detective and that nurse are going to be like, how do we explain this?
Yeah, they have to like fake some kind of something, but how the fuck do you, when they do the autopsy, like they're gonna see like something chewed through this man from the inside out.
I mean, not to mention like when they analyze the crime scene and they see the little rat footprints running away, in blood.
Yeah. No, I liked this better than Guillermo del Toro's version. I don't know.
I don't want to say it, but I really think a lot of that is because I don't think Rupert Grint is a very good actor.
Nope, that is 100% fair, and I just liked how they told the story better in this one. I don't know. I liked it better. I really liked the girl that they had, which, upon first seeing her, you're not thinking, oh, she's really hot, but when she's nude, all of a sudden you're like, holy shit. So that was
although we got boobies in episode 1,
we did.
I think they were.
Oh yeah, we did.
They were dead woman boobies. Yep. Boobies. By the time I got done with this episode, I'm like, okay, now I know why this is one of the ones that Kent chose us to do, because I was like, the breasts were on point in this one, and even the witch breasts. Yeah. I was like, for a several century old woman, her breasts are still pretty nice.
Yeah, still holding strong. One thing I find interesting is, and I know this is really, there was two things that kind of stuck out to me. One, and this is a really stupid thing, but you know me, nitpicking, was how perfect the font was for like Room for Rent. It's like they printed it out on like it doesn't look like somebody painted it. Like, it was perfect, the font was. That bothered me. I don't know why, but it bothered me because they showed it twice. And the other thing is, we have a show called Masters of Horror, and this was directed by Stuart Gordon, and I don't think anybody would ever call Stuart Gordon a master of horror. He did The Reanimator, From Beyond, and The Honey I Shrunk the Kids, and The Dentist. Like, I don't know. Is he...
Castle Freak, mofo.
Kevin, would you consider him a master of horror?
Oh, sure. In his own right. I mean, like in the realm of horror, and this was like really great, like B movie. I'm not like the biggest Stuart Gordon fan. I'd say Castle Freak is probably my favorite, and I haven't seen Reanimator or From Beyond, but I hear they're awesome. I mean, like, that's the consensus of those are like great visual gag kind of horror films.
Yeah,
with Jeffrey Combs too,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I consider him probably more than some of the other guys.
Oh, rest assured, I nitpicked a lot of them. I'm like, half of these guys, or at least a third of these guys, probably are not what one would think of as master of horror.
I mean, Lucky McKee gets a break because he came in to, I think it's
Lucky's
he or she. Came in, last minute to direct when what's his nuts backed out. So I mean, the fact that he only had the one movie to his credit beforehand,
right,
cuts him a break. But yeah, I mean, like, especially in the '80s, Stuart from Reanimator and From Beyond were, like, if you were into that type of horror, there was nobody else doing those types of movies. I mean, you didn't see a lot of people try to hit Lovecraftian stuff, really, until, I don't know, I would say late 2000s, getting on towards 2010, maybe. And to go along with that, like, he wrote some really great movies outside of it, like Robot Jocks. That movie is a cult classic. I can't tell you how many times I watched with my dad.
I literally never even heard of that.
Oh, Kevin.
But I'm interested.
Yeah, he did a lot of stuff on the Edges of Full Moon, too. So, I mean, if you were watching some of that shit, then yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah. So I want to say, and I have a question at the end. I really did like the CGI for being 2005, and like for what it is. It's like made for cable, even premium cable at that. I thought it was enjoyable. I think this is not H.P. Lovecraft's Dreams in the Witch House. This is Kevin Person's Wet Dreams in the Rat Hole, with a Dennis Franz stand-in. He just hands you the hammer. You fix, The room for rent thing, I think I didn't notice that, and I guess I didn't notice how clear it was, but I guess it was probably to make it clear. I don't know, to kind of simplify everything in a short period of time. But the ending is so insane. Like, right when you think it's over, like 10 minutes before it's over, it feels like it's like nice and wrapped up, and you're like, yeah, this one was like all right enough and gonna have, somewhat of a happy ending, and then it just goes full batshit and cranks up in the last 10 minutes to a whole other level, and I really appreciated that, because I really thought, like, you're thinking where you're going to kind of rate this, and I loved it. And the question I have is, was the old man neighbor previously possessed and killed a number of the previous babies that were found?
Yes.
Yes.
Among other people from, like,
because they said 300 years,
okay.
Right? Was the oldest?
Yeah,
So,
I think some back to like the 1700s. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, and I like how that all unfolded, and that was like what, in the last 10 minutes, or did that happen after?
At least last 15.
Right at the end.
Yeah, that felt like it was like the end, and then the the human face rat just starts. Oh, I don't know how far away, but it was amazing. I mean, they ripped that baby apart. Like, it was crazy. I loved it. That's enough for me, I guess.
The old man was a great character. Like, I really thought he was... Like, he was funny early on, like, he's just opening the door, peeking around, and then, like, we find out just how fucked up his life has been. It was like, wow, he was a deeper character than you would have initially guessed unless you actually, read the story.
Right, yeah. One more thing, I just want to write, no one ends up happy at the end but me.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense. I mean, the landlord's still just going to rent that place out, holes in the wall or not.
I want to know how bad your life has to be that, like, that is the only thing you can afford to rent.
Yeah. Okay, so perverted thought was when he was in bed, when he was on top of the girl, and I'm like, now, damn it, we didn't hear the bed squeak once during that scene, but we know damn well that was a squeaky-ass bed. Like, you guys forgot to do the squeaky sound effects. Just saying.
All right.
Too much went into the turning the...
That was half the budget, Kevin. Yeah. And those computer graphics on his laptop were at least another third.
The rat don't squeak, the bed don't squeak.
Hey,
we're moving on.
Charlie.
That's pretty good, Chris.
Anyways, yeah, let's move. Maybe we shouldn't move on. Anyway, can't take episode 3 for us, man.
So I'm gonna take the first stinker of the series, which is called Dance of the Dead. I can't imagine there's many people out there that's going to like advocate and say that it even belongs in the top half of the series, because yeah. So anyway, we have Dance of the Dead, directed by Tobe Hooper. I don't know, it came out in November of 2005, I believe, and you know, Tobe Hooper, he's kind of like a mixed bag, because when you just look at the names of things, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Poltergeist, Salem's Lot, Billy Idol's music video for Dancing with Myself, Life Force, The Funhouse, like, cool. And then there's also The Mangler. And then you kind of, I don't know, like, I mean, out of all the names attached to these episodes for directors, he may be, like, second or third behind Carpenter, obviously. Like, he's up there among names.
Yeah, I would say he's probably number 2. I mean,
Sure.
if look from a just a straight horror movie perspective, you might have one or two beat him out just overall, especially coming closer to the 80s than we are now.
Sure. I mean, I'm sitting there like, I mean, unless Wes Craven didn't direct one here, so, like, I really think on the merit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Poltergeist, and Salem's Lot, like, that's a pretty big triple header. So anyways, we also get Robert Englund. Like, this seems like a perfect marriage. And then also you think, oh yeah, Robert Englund was in The fucking Mangler. I'm very down on The Mangler. I can't imagine I'm alone on this. Anyway, Richard Matheson wrote the story that this was based on. I have to imagine he didn't write the terrible dialogue for the character known as Box. Anyway, we also get Jonathan Tucker in this. He was in The Ruins, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, and he was also in the TV series Hannibal for 1 or 2 episodes. I think 2 episodes, maybe.
Yeah, he was probably one of the best guest villains in Justified.
Like,
too.
he's a pretty good actor. I like him as an actor. But when I watch this, okay, so we have a story where there was a nuclear terrorist attack, there's some fallout, and this mom saves her 2 girls at one of the daughter's birthday party. She didn't let other people in, so they just got burned and fucked over. And now we're in this kind of post-apocalyptic thing where, I don't know what they said, 8 or 9 million people in the U.S. alone are dead, and 7 cities don't really exist anymore, blah, blah, blah. Billy Corgan's responsible for the music, for better or worse, and I feel like it's for the worse. Didn't really like the music. Anyway, Billy Corgan now owns NWA Wrestling. I feel that's important for some reason. We have this overprotective mom. Her name's Kate. She has 1 daughter now, Peggy. Anna is no longer with them, and the father is no longer... I feel like the father died, like, in some war beforehand. I don't know if it was the war that caused all the nuclear whatever, but he died. So, it's an interesting scenario, but then we get these 2 fucking guys, Jack and Box. And I like Jonathan Tucker, but his character was stupid as shit. And yet he comes off like fucking Einstein compared to Box. One of the worst characters I have seen written for a fucking horror movie. And, like, just a horrible, 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 horrible character. I hate it, hate it, hate it. Anyway, they're out trying to, you know, fucking drain old people of their blood, or the red, to give to fucking Robert Englund so we can get some LUP, which we'll get to momentarily. And we have this whole thing where fucking Peggy, she hasn't really lived, like, a life. She works at the diner, she hangs out with her crazy-ass overprotective mom, and she has no concept of, like, what life is, apparently. She also has no common sense, and whatever. So... the 2 punks, Jack and Box, they come to the diner one day. They have their strumpets with them. Jack is just openly flirting with Peggy, like his bitch is getting super fly pissed. Box and Celia just act like fucking jackasses, but Peggy's turned on by Jack's sensitive side. I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that night, she meets up with Jack, because Jack breaks into the diner, and she's just like, fuck you, Mom. I know you've been trying to help me, but fuck you, I'm going to go hang out. And we're going to go to Mesquite, and it's going to smell bad. We're going to do a lot of drugs. This guy's going to be drinking and driving and going way too fast and inhaling shit and getting burned on the fucking neck and saying the most ludicrous things. And then, we get to the Doom Room, which is where Robert Englund plays the MC, and the big thing is the LUP, which was what was it? The Living Undeath Performer, was it? Can somebody correct me?
Yeah, I don't fucking... you already put more time into this episode than I wanted to.
That sounds right.
Because it wasn't undead, it was undeath. Okay. And I found that to be kind of weird. Like, I don't know, whatever. So, yeah, like... Basically, we get this whole thing where Jack tries to act like a badass, and yet, like, in reality, and this is where Edward Furlong's getting brought in. Jack reminded me a lot of Edward Furlong, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know, if I saw Jack on the street, he would be like one of the least intimidating people of all time, but they tried making him kind of tough, and it just didn't work for me in any way. Anyway, we find out the twist is that Mother Dearest sold off Anna because she kept getting strung out at the Doom Room, so she sold her to fucking England so she can be an LUP, and England could get fucking head from a half-zombie, half-awake blonde chick, and there was tits and stuff, but nothing about this fucking worked in any fucking way, and the story could have been cool. They just needed better characters, and it could have been an adequate story at least, but no. I'm really fucking down on this one, and that's why I gave it to myself when we were planning this out, because I'm like, I like taking on the shit ones. So, yeah, I guess my first question is, was Jack, was Box the worst character of this whole series so far? And secondly, does anybody feel intimidated by Jack? Like, Kevin, I know you are a thin gentleman, and yet I feel like you could possibly take out Jack. Yeah. I feel like
Jonathan
you could take him out.
Tucker is Jack? Okay. Oh, yeah. Box was awful. I think if they could have switched the actors, and it might have actually worked out better. Jonathan Tucker as the unhinged guy, I think that would have been, and I didn't think about that until you were talking about him. But he's definitely I think the low point of this episode. But what about you, Chris?
I think Box might possibly be one of the worst written characters I've ever seen in a TV show or movie. And that was written and created in World War III in 2024 when I was forced to watch this pile of shit. I want to say that I really think that the highest highs of this series and its lowest lows are when they try to combine a bunch of different, I want to say, genres, plot lines, stories, types of horror together, and sometimes they're successful, and then you have something like this where they're just completely not successful. Like, they're, out of every ranking I looked at for this show, and unfortunately a lot of them spoiled some of the stuff in season 2, but I mean, I don't necessarily consider it a spoiler if somebody just puts them in rankings, but I only saw one ranking put this one anywhere other than the very worst episode out of the entire show, and funnily enough, that ranking put this as the best episode out of all of them. So that's saying something. Yes,
I understand. I get that.
But
I don't think this is the best episode. Go ahead.
You have so many threads that are in this that go nowhere. Like the whole idea of the thread, the stuff that's falling from the sky, melting people basically. But it doesn't necessarily melt them, because you see one of the women later on and she's disfigured by it, but she's not dead or completely, dead.
Jerry.
You've got the idea that the old people just have to give up their blood when they're approached by the young ruffians, and then they never do anything else with that later on. You've got some of the undead being burned in dumpsters, but others aren't. Like you said, Kent, they mentioned multiple times that there was a war, that her dad died in the war, and yet nothing really is, you have Box fucking mentioning all kinds of definitions that were created during the war, but nothing else outside of that ever comes of it. It's supposed to be post-apocalyptic, but it looks like some people have just completely normal lives still, and yet other people look like they live in like fucking Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. And then you take somebody like Robert Englund, maybe one of the most seminal horror actors of our generation, and you fucking waste him in this. But my biggest problem with the episode is that, like, for a show called Masters of Horror, this was like the first episode that wasn't scary. I don't understand what the idea of where were the scares supposed to come from. You can see what they were going for in episode 1. You can see what they were going for in episode 2, and in episode 3, I'm like, I don't know. I will say though that it had some really pretty cinematography, like the scene where Jack and what's her name,
Peggy
are burying her sister, and you have the town and the moon and the tree silhouetted. I thought that was actually a really stunning scene, filmed. But
I like the birthday party best out of like everything that they filmed. I thought that looked adequate.
Yeah, and I mean, the twist was okay, but like you said, like Jack and Peggy grab her sister, who is effectively a zombie at this point, and will probably die as soon as the effects of the what do they call it? The red?
The red.
As of the red wear off. And he's like waving a gun at everybody, and like, they end up just, Robert Englund just like makes it look like it's gonna be a big deal, but then he just lets it go.
Well, I gotta ask a quick question here, because you just brought something up. So Jack tells Box that he wants the gun. So he's demanding the gun. He's not holding anything against Box. He has like no knife against him. He's not punching him, choking him. He's just like, give me the gun. And then Box's reaction is, I'm gonna fucking kill you, like, as if like Jack just stole from him. You just willingly gave him your gun, and now like his reaction made no sense compared to what just happened. Like, it was almost like two different scripts just got combined in that weird interaction there. I don't get why Box would react the way he did to that. It made no sense.
I was like, dude, what did you think he was going to do with the gun? Were you expecting him to like give it a blowjob or something, and then just hand it back when he was done?
Old Franco, Spring Breakers.
Yeah, I feel bad that you got stuck with this one, Kent, but I'm glad that you did not give it to me. So thank you for taking one for the team.
I definitely took it for the team. And I'll say this also, when they showed the girls in the dumpster, maybe film it a little differently, because you could just clearly see the flammable gel stuff on all of their bodies, and then they just set it on fire. I was like, you could probably have filmed that a little differently, or just not show their bodies. I don't know. Like, we didn't need to see any more tits at that point. Like, you could have just shown them tossing the flame in and the fire going up. We didn't need to see the bodies covered in gel. Kind of pointless.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you said, Tobe Hooper's, depending upon who you hear discussing it, he's done some great movies. You know, like, I forgot how much I like Poltergeist. But like you said, he's also done some stinkers. And, you know, this was unfortunately way closer to the Mangler than it was to, you know, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So.
And Chris, this was your first time seeing it. I don't know if this was Kevin's. Did you see the whole thing coming that it was going to be Anna? Because, like, I don't know, this felt like a twist straight out of something like Tales from the Crypt without the comedy.
You know, unfortunately, like, that kind of gets ruined because, you know, like, even just reading the synopsis of all of these just gives it away.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Well, all right, so I want to go on the defense on this because, first of all, I could watch an entire hour of Robert Englund on a mic in that environment. I loved his unhinged performance.
That would have been a better movie.
The story was a fucking mess, but I loved all the stuff with him on the microphone. It is laid thick from like the insanity to the melodrama, and like I could do without the melodrama. To answer your question, Kent, Box is a fucking moron from the very first thing you hear out of his mouth to the last. So I think it works. You know, like the twist wasn't really that big of a twist. I guess the fact that it was her sister, like you could see that a mile away. Did you guys feel like that?
Yeah, I think that was spoiled. I want to say that the twist that the mother sold the sister, you know, that was not spoiled by like the synopsis.
And I think that's the darker twist is that like she sold her as like alive, like as a regular girl at that point, and then just, you know, like with what you see of Robert Englund with the girls later on, you know, like they just use that girl, and so that part was pretty like it did kind of like put the pit in my stomach for that. So that's like the scare factor, but it's just wild. And like to sum it up, I'm gonna quote Robert Englund in this. For those of you who've never had standards or a fucking heart, the Doom Room welcomes you. And that warms my heart.
So, since we didn't do this for the first one, let's do this quick before we go. Who would you say was the standout performance in episode 1?
Ooh.
Oh, I would say the Bree Turner, is that her name? The girl?
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn, you know what? For what little time Ethan Embry had, he was fucking fantastic.
Respect.
I mean, I'm not mad either one. Either one's acceptable to me, but I'm going to just go Ethan, I guess.
I think I'll say Bree too, just because, like you and I said, Kent, like she did a really good job of not falling into like a lot of like final girls tropes or Mary Sue-isms.
I would have given her an 8 out of 10. You know that's high praise for me.
Yeah. What would you guys say about episode 2? Who would you guys give that to?
Ooh, one actor? Yeah, no.
I would go with the old man or the mom. Like, I liked the mom. She was like such a sweetheart what little time she had, but the old man really sold me like the last 10 to 15 minutes.
Dennis Franz and a wife beater. You fix. Dennis Franz standing.
I think I have to go with the. Yeah, like I'd like to say the chick, but the old man, like especially like the ending recontextualizes a lot of what you saw with him earlier. But I think it's safe to say, hands down, that Robert Englund steals the show in episode 3. Like
kills it.
I don't think that anybody can compare.
No. I will say this about Box. I really did a deep dive knowing I had to talk about this. I was like, in defense of Box, I tried to make up a backstory. I'm like, his parents got killed. He never went to school beyond like kindergarten and has no concept of like any intellectualism, and he just says the things that like a juvenile delinquent would just find to be the funniest thing because he never matured. is that I don't know if that's an appropriate excuse for everything, but that's the only backstory I could come up with.
He might be the best driver I have ever seen, though, for being able to stay on the road when he is that high.
I mean, Peggy's just like, oh yeah, I'll just hang out with these two punks at this whore, and we're gonna be drinking, we're gonna get fucking high. Like, everything's just cool. Like, I'm just gonna go with this. Like, I've lived a sheltered life. This seems cool. Like, fuck. Yeah. I'm so happy I had Dance of the Dead. I'm not gonna lie. I was really happy and sad simultaneously. Alright, so we good on Dance of the Dead?
I really don't have anything else to say. All right, Kevin, go ahead and take us away on episode number 4.
All right, Masters of Horror, Season 1, Episode 4. Original air date, November 18th, 2005. This is Jennifer, with one N, directed by Dario Argento. Short story by Bruce Jones, and a teleplay by Steven Weber. A police officer saves the life of a hideously deformed young woman, only to find himself drawn into a web of murder and self-destruction from which he finds it difficult to break away. It starts off strong with a kidnapped girl about to get cleavered by a big bald guy in a trench coat, who then gets shot by the master of made-for-TV horror, Steven Weber. I think the moral to this story is don't take your work home with you, even if she is Carrie Ann Fleming's body, but her face is Jennifer. And I'm going to say, but really her face. This is the only episode that aired in the first season to have scenes cut, both involving oral sex and another involving castrating and eating a penis. The deleted scenes are featured on the So Hideous My Love documentary on the DVD. If you are a fan of graphic sex and grotesque violence and a mixture of those two, this is not to be missed. The lengths a man will go to get some strange pussy. What did you guys think of this one?
I am really torn on this one. I think it's a really strong episode. There's some pretty decent humor. Like, Kent brought up one of my favorite lines in the show. I'll let him go over that when he gets to it. And like the premise is interesting, and when you finally get to like the first scene of gore, yeah, it's surprising when you see it because you haven't really seen anything up until that point. And yeah, I want to like this one better than I did, but I really can't say too much negative about it. It's one of my favorite Steven Weber performances I've seen. And the fact that he wrote it as well, I appreciate. And like a lot of people have said, I think this is just Dario Argento having a good time, and it shows.
Yeah, I mean, Steven Weber basically... This is what Steven Weber does. I've noticed in so many things of his that I like, he just plays this alcoholic who ends up like as a transient man, and he plays that role so well. In The Shining, like, I know he was no Jack Nicholson, but he played the drunk role really good. In a Tales from the Crypt episode with the ghouls, he played the fucking transient drunk guy really well. Like, his fall from grace was alcohol. Like, he does this role really, really well. And then Steve Weber's like, well, if I gotta do this, I may as well write that I get these, like, awesome sex scenes with, two very attractive girls. So kudos for him, just... Yeah, writing himself into good stuff, and Chris alluded to my favorite quote of the episode from Chief Charlie talking to Weber. He says, "If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck with a meat cleaver." Fucking brilliant. That was fucking brilliant. What was... Alright, did anybody else find, like, the whole scene... Like, I think it was the very first scene with the fly in the car. Like, I found that to be such a weird... I don't know, opening scene. Like the fly itself. I don't know, did anybody else find that weird?
Yeah, the fly was weird, but, like, I can't tell you how many times, like, I would be sitting there with another, MP in a cop car, just sitting around waiting for something to happen and have, like, those kind of conversations, like those two were having.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed very realistic. I just thought it was, like, such a weird... I don't know. I didn't dislike it. I'm definitely not saying I dislike it. I just found it to be like a weird opening scene, and kudos for doing that. This was a lot of fun. This is like an episode where, yeah, it's not the cream of the crop, but it was a lot of fun in a lot of different ways. I love the one orderly when they walk in on the shower is like, that head on that body, whatever the hell he says, like, that made me laugh. I really liked how they did her makeup or prosthetics, whatever. Like, they did a really good job with making her look that way. The cat thing, I don't even like cats, but that was just like a weird, I don't know. And here's the thing, I bet you there's like probably like half the people that watched probably felt worse about the cat getting eaten than the little girl Amy, and that's where we are as a society, folks. People care about their cats. It's a weird thing. Oh no, though.
Considering my cat is sitting right here on me while we're doing this.
I think every podcast at some point or another, I definitely hear your cat. So yes, your cat is part of the podcast. Just in very, 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 very tiny little pieces every now and again. So yeah,
I think it's in the way they shot because I think the way they film kids getting killed is different than like where they'll go full out for.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like
yeah, I mean straight up, Kevin. Like you see the after effects with the little girl, but you see the full-on attack with the cat.
Oh, how great was the stepson when he's just staring at Jennifer's tits? Like, that scene actually made me laugh quite a bit too.
Oh, perfect.
And all right, I'm looking at the cast, and I see that Cynthia Garris played Rose, and I know she's a blonde. Would she have been like the lady in the mental hospital, like in the shower with Jennifer? Because I don't know what other blonde there was. Or was Rose the owner of the grocery store place?
Oh, yeah.
Because Cynthia Garris is Mick Garris's wife. She played Susan Stern in the original Stand. She was in our favorite, Sleepwalkers. So I actually like her as an actress, but I don't know who the hell Rose was. I'm thinking she was actually the owner of that store, now that I'm thinking about it. Because she was blonde, right?
Yeah, I think that is her.
Also, I just love that, Steven Weber's character's like, I could lose my wife. I assume that they were married. Or I could just keep this disfigured girl that I just met. Okay, it's fuck this, fuck her. I'll keep the new Strange. Like, what a weird stance that is, right?
My question is, I've seen a lot of people with deformities and disfigurements, but I've never seen anybody whose eyes are completely black with no iris and sclera, just a straight black all the way. And nobody ever remarks that that's fucking weird.
No.
Because we're all staring at her tits, dude.
Well, I mean...
She had black eyes. I didn't even know.
Yeah. Okay. I think there were a couple times when they looked normal, but if you look at any of the scenes where she's having sex or performing violence, her eyes are completely black. So, what I was trying to figure out is if he's implying that she's like a demon or unhuman, or if that was just a stylistic take that he had.
Yeah, I was wondering demon.
Because she has like the color in her eyes in other scenes, like an actual like eyes.
You don't get a lot of shots with her where you see her full on because she's always using the hair to obscure. But yeah, there's a couple scenes where you see her and she's got like normal blue eyes,
some whites in it. Oh yeah, well that might be kind of like like of how she kind of like seduces people. It could be kind of like her eyes are black to like probably most everyone. I don't know, but I do have an answer for you, Kent. It's the savior complex. Steven Weber's character is addicted to save her at like any cost, where he ends up destroying his life, destroying other people's lives, like the next life that he tries to start. It's just like this, and until it gets.
Wasn't that basically Saw 4 or Saw 5? Saw 4, right? With Riggs, the savior complex, right?
Yep, Saw 4.
Huh? Yeah, it's a good call.
Yeah, it's just like the dude. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot in like in sex addiction is that's like something that people stray outside of their marriage because they're like they find this person because they're so unsatisfied in their own life. So, not to get too real, but I did get some good stuff from that. But also, the whole thing was pretty fucking wild. Yeah. I don't really know a lot of Dario Argento. Like, I've
Suspiria?
never...
Or
I've not
Demons?
seen Suspiria. My friend just...
Kevin, you'll like Demons.
I watched Inferno. One time, but I feel like I was on my phone, and because of I didn't get anything out of it, so I would definitely go back. Like, I would never speak to it or say that it's bad or anything, but I don't really remember it, and it's probably like 5 years ago. So yeah, I'm not really familiar with Dario Argento, but this got me, like, I'm familiar with that he's got a whole bunch of stuff, but, yeah, it's like a glaring gap of
some of his stuff is
cinema.
Just it's almost too artsy at times, which I know is kind of your thing, but there are times where
sounds awesome.
Some of it's a little boring and some of it's really cool. Like, some of the stylistic choices are really awesome and some are just like, okay, I get it, like it was fucking European cinema in the 70s, whatever. So yeah, I think it's something that honestly you would really enjoy, and obviously start off with Suspiria or Demons. You will not regret either of those choices. I want to ask a question, or did Chris, once again, I know this was your first time. Were you at any point just like wanting to yell at your TV when Weber's like, I gotta kill her, but I'm going to go through this really long process of dragging her through the woods, finding the perfect tree stump before I just take her out? Like, did that drive anybody else nuts instead of just taking her out immediately? Like, he had to go.
I think part of that, though, at that point is the fact that he is basically just not in his right mind anymore at all. I mean, he's basically an alcoholic, So yeah, and I didn't have too much. I mean, yes, if I had been the one doing it, like, she would have just gotten fucking worked. But with where he was, no, I didn't have too much of a problem with it.
Because it recreates
the cycle,
the scene from the beginning. So, like, but we don't see, she just probably, was chomping on some kid's dick before the opening shot. So it's like that cycle of how, like, you end up becoming the victimizer instead of, from an outside perspective, rather than, being the hero that you set out to be. Because, dude, when he tells his wife, like, oh, I got it, she's got to stay here. Like, what else am I going to do? She's got nowhere to go. Like, oh, man.
Well, and to be fair, like, at that point, we hadn't seen really any of the negatives so far. So, like, the fact that the wife was just such a fucking bitch, like, I can kind of get it.
Wow. You bring some traumatized, strange pussy to your house.
In all fairness, though,
without telling her. She like didn't even know that she was there.
Well, like the previous night, she was willing to like just go down and do everything sexually, and then Steve Weber's just like, no, I'm going to pin you down, and I'm just going to forcefully, anally fuck you. I don't know. The next night, she might be a little pissed off and be a little sensitive to certain things. I think that's a fair thing, though, for her.
I mean, sure.
I don't know. I think it's a fair stance for her to be that pissed off. But, all right, Jennifer, that was fun with one N.
Oh, God, all right. So,
you looking forward to this, Chris? Huh? Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
Stop sounding so enthusiastic.
I do have some good stories about this one. Episode 5, Chocolate. Aired November 25th, 2005. Directed by Mick Garris, the creator of the show. Starring Henry Thomas, Matt Frewer, and Stacey Grant. So, this was an interesting one. I had no idea where the fuck it was going for most of it. Jamie works in a company developing flavors for food. He has a nose where he can identify stuff just by smelling it. And out of nowhere, he smells a strange chocolate, and then gradually, over time, begins to experience flashes where he is experiencing the senses of another person, and it eventually is revealed that it's a woman that he is experiencing the senses of. So when he experiences her sight, for example, he stops being able to see in front of him, which occurs at one point while he's driving. Pretty dangerous thing. All the way up to, him experiencing a version of the female orgasm while he's lying in bed with a woman that he just brought home for a one-night stand. Well, I don't think he anticipated it being a one-night stand, but after this scene, it becomes one. He kind of screws up with his ex-wife and his son, and he gets further and further obsessed with this woman until he's tracking her down by looking through clues that he's seeing through his visions. He ends up seeing her murder somebody, and when he finally meets her, goes about the worst possible way of meeting somebody for the first time to confess your love and obsession with them into what turns out to be one of the most foreseeable endings in this series. And it's framed as he's being interrogated by police officers, and he's telling them the story as it goes. So, Kevin, I know I told Kent this, but I was watching this one at work, and the place I was at, we're normally by ourselves in, and the spot we go next, we have the ability to go anywhere. So I'm sitting there watching this while I'm eating, and the guy I relieved, who had the spot to go anywhere, he came back to where I was for a second because he was trying to log into his account to be able to play Red Dead Redemption when he went to some place where he wouldn't have signal. So as he's logging in and doing that, I'm at the point now where Henry Thomas is having the orgasm, that the woman is experiencing, and he's sitting behind me. He's like, "What the fuck are you watching?" And I'm like, "Just think, if you weren't trying to log into your video game, you would never have experienced the female orgasm through somebody else's eyes."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Could have been worse. Could have been a different episode.
It could have been. It could have been better too. I think Mick Garris is another one of those people who's had a pretty varied career in regards to the fact that some of the stuff he's done has been
Sleepwalkers.
Great. And some of the stuff has been Sleepwalkers. And Chocolate was way closer to being on the Sleepwalkers end than it was to being on, say, like the batteries not included end. So, the performances were fine. Like, Matt Frewer had a pretty interesting cameo that really doesn't end up really affecting the plot too much at all. Henry Thomas was good. I like him in just about everything I've seen, and he's been doing a lot of horror lately. But so overall, the plot is interesting, but kind of weak, and I don't know. I don't know. This was not my favorite episode of this season. What did you guys think?
Yeah. All right. So first off, I will say that I think this was a poorly titled movie. I don't know, come up with something that's not chocolate, because I don't know, I came in with an expectation, whatever. This is, oddly enough, out of everything in season 1, I know I've seen this. I know I've seen this multiple times. But for the life of me, as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, I kind of remember that. I have mostly blocked this one out of my mental existence for whatever reason. Lots of beautiful women. I mean, his ex was beautiful, Elaine was beautiful, and Lucy LaLaurie, whatever her fucking name was, they were all beautiful. Like, one thing I will say for Masters of Horror, lots of beautiful women. That was a major perk of this first season. I found the whole grocery store scene to be really, really off-putting. And I guess that's probably part of the intent, but I just hated it. But my hate wasn't so strong that it truly bothered me, because, I mean, let's face it, we got to see Matt Frewer with a red mohawk, and that was definitely a highlight. But they didn't really take advantage of how great Matt Frewer is. Like, they had two very talented male actors, and I felt most of the women were good too. I'm just saying that you have some name value, and the actors tried their best, but the source material wasn't great. Like, Henry Thomas, I find him very enjoyable. He gave it his all. Like, him trying to do the freaking female orgasm, good on him. Like, he owned it. He went for it, and he tried selling it. Good on him. At the end of the day, though, this it kind of drags on a little bit. Like, I think you could cut 15 minutes of this easily, and it wouldn't be a problem. It's definitely toward the bottom of most lists that I looked at, and I see why. It's nothing I'd need to ever see again, and I'll probably blank it out like next week.
Yeah, I don't even know what the grocery store scene you're...
Because she was eating an apple and talking about how she was on a diet, and he, like, that's how, when she, like, seduced him at the grocery store.
Oh yeah, the one night stand.
Elaine, yeah.
Oh,
and then it was a short throwaway scene, but it really, I don't know, it irked me.
There's a lot of short throwaway scenes in this. Matt Frewer with a mohawk makes me happy. Henry Thomas. If you ever want to know what it's like to be Henry Thomas as a woman getting banged and masturbating with a showerhead, this episode is a must-watch. If you can live without that, then you could definitely skip this one. And I don't say this often, but I agree with the cop. This is not an easy story to swallow. I do have a question. So did him going deaf in the bar have anything to do with entering Catherine's POV, or anything at all to do with the story? You were talking a little bit about that, Chris. I didn't get it.
I don't know, though, because like when he loses his vision, he's seeing through her eyes. So was she in like a soundproof box at that point when he lost his hearing?
Oh yeah, they don't really. Yeah, okay.
He's not having anything overlay it. You know,
and we don't know that yet.
Yeah, he's just deaf. Yeah.
So I thought the story was going somewhere else. I do remember you writing something about.
Didn't he have to like lose his hearing and then lose his sight before he could enter her hearing in her sight? Wasn't that the idea? Was that he had to like have this momentary loss before he could experience it?
I don't know. It's never really fleshed out. You know,
It just always the story just kind of keeps moving on.
it's all chocolate. It's all chocolate.
I don't understand. Oh, the chocolate thing's from the beginning, right?
Yeah, when he smells the artisanal chocolate that she's eating, and
then he goes to the store, buys her the box of chocolate, shows up at her door like, "Here, I got this chocolate. I hope this doesn't make you think of you murdering a guy." The fuck?
Don't worry, I'm not a serial killer. I just know everything about you. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
You like the shower head set to high.
Yeah. You know,
Yep.
hey, if you're going to keep that up, can you maybe put it on pulse instead of on steady?
And just lower it like another quarter inch. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree with both of the things you said, both of you. Like, it meanders. It's not bad. It's just, oh no, it's close to bad. It's just, there was potential, and it didn't live up to any of its potential.
I'll ask a question. Imagine this. Imagine you are the fucking guy that gets all these directors together. You're the fucking guy that's like, we're going to make this TV series, and I'm going to direct one of these, and this is my fucking brainchild. I'm going to choose this story to direct. Do you think everybody else in the room was fucking laughing at him?
I have a feeling that it was more like, he's like, okay, these are all the stories we got. Who wants what?
And he
He's
got
like,
last dibs?
I'll pick last because, you know, I'm the one bringing this up to you. And he looked at the box that he was at the done, and he's like, oh, chocolate. He's like none
You
of
wrote
you.
another one too, right?
He's like, none of you guys wanted to do the one that I was the solo writer on. Nobody wants chocolate.
Is that also how you end up with Sleepwalkers?
Henry Thomas will do it. Henry Thomas will be. Matt Frewer will be in it. Anybody else? Anybody want it? No. Okay. I'll do it. Okay, fine.
Is anybody else disappointed that we never got to see the coin trick? And is anybody else also wondering why that girl got so pissed off that he temporarily lost his hearing? Like, she freaked the fuck out on him for having an issue with his hearing. Like, she was over the top pissy about that. I thought that was weird.
I mean, it's definitely not the kind of thing I want to go through on the first night I stay at somebody's house, especially when then your ex-wife and your son come in at the same time.
No, I meant at the bar when the band was playing. When he first,
yeah.
Like, she just overreacted.
But for either of them, you know, it would be something like, hey, I don't know, I'm having a condition. Never happened to me before. I'm sorry that I reacted like that. Oh, boom, okay, yeah, sorry. Normal behavior. Nope. That shit's fucking gone.
Yeah. Good times. Alright, we good with chocolate?
Yeah, I
Very good.
think so, yeah.
Alright, so I had episode 6, which is called Homecoming, and this is... Yeah, I'm already sitting here stammering a little bit. Alright, so out of all of them, I think this was the second funniest one. But I also know it's political satire, and that is something I hate dealing with. I have no idea what I was thinking when we were going through, like, you should do this, I'd have no idea what the fuck I was thinking, going, yeah, I'll take Homecoming. Only thing that was in my mind at that moment was I remember watching wrestling on Monday nights, and they would do, like, a 30-second, like, infomercial to get you to order Homecoming on DVD. And I always thought, like, they didn't advertise any of the other ones, but for whatever reason, they made, like, a funny commercial, and it worked. With that being said, like, this... So basically, I don't know. Basically, you have soldiers that are pissed off about the war in Iraq. They come back to life so they can vote to stop the war. There, I just wrapped up the whole fucking story. Like, there's a lot of other stuff going on. There's a lot of funny lines. The acting is corny, but I think that's exactly what the script called for. I don't have a problem with the acting, really, if I'm thinking about, like, once again, it's political satire. These people are going to be a little hammy. The one dude, Robert Picardo, who played Kurt Rand, I thought he was really fucking good in this. I thought the two leads were fine. It was fine. It was perfectly fine, and I don't hate it. But if I never fucking see Homecoming again, I'm okay with it. Like, I'm really okay with it. I don't have a whole hell of a lot to say, and this was directed by fucking Joe Dante, who, you know, he's not exactly a fucking lightweight. He directed Gremlins 1 and 2, The Howling, Piranha, and the worst segment of Twilight Zone, the movie, you know? And he also did Small Soldiers, which I really liked, thanks to Dennis Leary. But this was... Actually, this probably was the most Joe Dante thing that they could have had him do. And yeah, I don't know. It didn't ring true to me, and when Philip comes back at the end, I was like, of course he did, and... no kid, by the way, when he was like friend or foe, no kid, alright, after you shoot your brother once, you're not going to be like, wait, we're still playing the game, I gotta shoot him a second time. No, a kid would just be like, holy shit, what the fuck just happened? There would be a little kick to the gun, or like something would go off in that fucking kid's head, but no, the kid's just like, I'm gonna shoot my brother a second time. Fucking blew my mind. Fuck, I don't you guys talk about this. I don't really know what else to say. It was kind of foolish.
Go ahead, Ken.
Well, it had a great opening scene. It's probably one of my favorite opening scenes. The crutches and the raccoon guts, the car crash into the soldier, the political consultants have a trunk full of guns. It was pretty cool. Especially because then, I mean, I do not like when, or I'm a little disappointed when movies have great beginnings like that, and then it goes back to before then, and it explains everything. I wish that, like, that was the beginning of the story. I feel like that's one thing. I don't know, they had a great scene, but then they got to go all the way back to it, and I guess that's the whole point of it. And you know, but yeah, it's I do think it was a good where Kurt Rand gets killed, his eyes gouged out, and then like slammed into the table is like a great example of Joe Dante style. It's like obviously inspired by, but doesn't go full Fucci. You know, because the way that scene is cut, it's very like how Gremlins is cut. Like, it's almost like a PG, like, could be PG in the 80s, with the way they cut a lot of the stuff and don't go, like, full on gore. Though, like, the zombies are very gory, and there is a lot, but in those, yeah, that scene where he gets his eyes gouged out, yeah, I don't know. It reminded me of that style. Yeah, it's like a Romero vibe, but with a better sense of humor, or like funnier. It is satire, but it also kind of plays as a drama. Yeah, I like this episode. It's fun because it's not like a lot of the other ones, but yeah, I don't really have like a whole bunch to say about it either, but I did enjoy it.
I wonder, you know, how different, I don't think it would be very much, how different this episode would be if it was made in 2024 compared to being made at 2005 when it was made. And I have a feeling it would be pretty similar to what it is. I fucking love this episode, man. The humor hit. I mean, I was going through the same shit that these guys were going through at the time that this was filmed, so I understood exactly where they were coming from. You know, I love the fact that, you know, we're getting all the main characters from the perspective of being on the right politically, and their first assumption is that all of these soldiers are coming back to life to vote for them. You know, so they're like, oh no, we have to protect these voters' rights. And then they find out that they're voting against them, and they're like, no, zombies can't vote.
I've been saying since day one.
Yeah, I loved it. It was just
very well done.
The humor hit. you know, this is definitely a funnier episode. I would have loved for a little more gore to go, like you were saying, Kevin. It was very much like the scenes that we got were very PG or PG-13-ish. And I think the dichotomy would have worked better. But the humor was really good for this. It's definitely not one of the scarier ones, but I definitely saw Joe Dante's hand all over it. Yeah, and like when you think about what Robert Picardo wanted to do, you know, that's kind of, you know, pretty fucking dark. You know, let's, we'll just turn all our soldiers into zombies so they don't fucking die and just go to war for us forever.
Plus they held the dude's mom hostage.
Yeah. Yeah, he was all good until they were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill your mom. Anyways,
I'll ask this question quickly.
I enjoyed it. I'd never seen John Tenney either, so I don't know if, but I thought he was pretty decent as a lead for the episode.
I was thinking a stronger male lead. Like, I feel like Hank Azaria would have been a really good lead for this one. Like, the guy did a good job for, I don't want to say being a no-name, but I sure as hell don't know who the hell he is.
Yeah, I don't,
like, just somebody that had a little bit more name value, I think maybe could have made this a little bit more ludicrous, which, once again, the way that they leaned into it, that was fun. Like, this was fun. This was a lot of fun. It wasn't shitty, it was fun, but, you know.
Well, like I think you name dropped earlier, but like I could have seen like Dennis Leary doing this part.
Yeah,
perfectly.
Leary would have been fucking great. But for what it was, for the cast of characters, like it really wasn't bad.
Either impressively or depressingly, the politics are very relevant of it, and
yes.
So I don't know if that's like a good thing because I can still get stuff out of it, you know, or bad because we're still going through it. And Joe Dante didn't change anything back in 2005 with Homecoming.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
All right, I guess.
I think we're good, right?
All right, Kent, why don't you take us into episode 7, Dear Woman?
Gladly. Finally, I get a director that, you know, speaks to me in a language that I appreciate, because John Landis, you know, he's done some fun stuff. One of the things that I really liked that John Landis did, and I know we've talked about this, Chris and I, we have at the very least, was Twilight Zone, the movie, when he did the opening scene with, fuck, I can't even think of names right now, but you know who I'm talking about, Dan Aykroyd, right?
Yeah.
Chris?
Yep.
Yeah. But you know, he's done, you know, Blues Brothers. I don't know. He did. My notes are not coming up, so I am really spitballing here. There, my notes finally came up. American Werewolf in London, Animal House, fucking Three Amigos, Coming to America. Once again, I'm not sure if you said name the 15 best masters of horror, if John Landis would come up, but just on the strength of that Twilight Zone segment, it might. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I will always like American Werewolf in London being like one of the first 3 or 4 horror movies I ever saw in my life. Aside from the director, we have Brian Benben as the star, and he was in, I don't know, was it HBO that Dream On was on?
Oh, yeah. It was HBO. You know, actually, the HBO's icon, the static TV screen, was from their intro to that show.
Oh, I've seen that show just like a few times, and I always thought like, oh, this is something I would enjoy, but I don't know, probably at this point to go back to watch it, I don't know how good it would be, but I remember liking it back in the day. Anthony Griffith, I feel like I knew him. He was in Tales from the Hood. He played Clarence. I think it's in the second segment with the cops. And we get Cynthia Mora, who plays the titular deer woman. And this is definitely the least serious of all of the first season of Masters of Horror. This, I don't even know. No, there is something really fucking silly in season 2. Anyways, we basically start off at this. I don't know if it was a bar or a truck stop or, like IMDb said, a lodge, a place where truckers go and drink. And basically, a guy and a girl end up in his truck, his big rig. He gets fucking mangled, and his door gets kicked off. And as we know as viewers, it was from the deer woman. But in reality, trying to explain how this guy is just fucked up and has deer hoof prints on him. That's what we have to figure out. So our lead guy, Detective Dwight Faraday, he is on weird call duty or animal attacks, and he gets called in on this, and it's typical, like, we're in charge now. Like, you always have, like, some other cop come in and be like, no, I'm the one in charge type thing. Like, fucking Die Hard all over again. But it was done funny. We keep getting, like, I don't know how many there was. There was three incidents that they had to investigate, and each time, like, Dwight and the female coroner, can't remember her name, Sonia, I want to say, they kind of start buying into this whole idea that something is really happening with both an animal and a human. And one of my favorite scenes is when Dwight is lying in bed and he's trying to imagine, like, recreate the scene. He's trying to recreate the scene just like in fucking Hannibal, but in a much more comedic way. Each time it was like, I think the funniest one was the person with the deer head and the fucking the plaid shirt and the jeans. Like, that shit cracked me up. I don't know. Maybe I'm a sucker for dumb comedy. I will fully own that. There was just a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor, and eventually his, Dwight's, I don't want to say his partner, but he became friends with this dude named Officer Jacob Reed. Jacob Reed's at the casino, the Indian casino. They keep saying Indian casino, and I'm like, I don't know if that's correct anymore, but I don't know. Whatever. They're at the casino, and there's lots of Indian jokes. Whatever. He gets drunk, deer woman shows up, they end up, like, in his apartment, and Dwight calls him, and Reed's like, dude, I got a girl here. And Dwight goes, have you looked at her feet yet? And Reed just responds, I'm a fucking idiot. It was great. It was great, and, you get Dwight over, and then there's a chase, and there's some other weird stuff. It doesn't end on the best note. The ending's very weak because he, like, runs into a tree where the deer woman is standing in front of. So, like, I don't know, it's kind of like the fucking death in the film Signs. But, like, she's still alive. She picks up the car, so he shoots her until she, like, disappears, and I don't know. Then he's just by the car, and then the cops come, and it ends at a really abnormal spot that doesn't make much sense, but the story itself really didn't make a lot of sense. But it was very tongue-in-cheek, very funny. I laughed. I still laugh. I've seen this probably 4 or 5 times, and I still laugh at it. I'm still incredibly attracted to Deer Woman, and I don't know. I know this is lower on a lot of people's list, but for me, I do like a good comedy horror when it's done well, and for me, this was done well. What'd you guys think?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay. So I just think that this is just well done, ridiculous fun, like, at its best. I love Brian Benben in this. He's perfect for the role. It's almost like a really goofy, like, X-Files episode. Like, more goofy than the X-Files get, which can be kind of goofy sometimes. It represents the campy comedy horror subgenre very well. It's difficult to rate to some degree. I didn't write a lot of stuff about this, but when Brian Penben goes through the different scenarios of the murder by taxidermy theories is so good. And I actually really liked the ending. I thought it was when he when the deer woman kicks the car over, I thought that was done really well. It's ridiculous, and then he unloads the gun on her. It's and then he's just there all beat to shit and the cops are coming. I thought that was a really well lit scene. It was very 80s to me.
Not to mention the scene right before that where he's chasing her and all of a sudden just other deer start attacking the car.
yes. To protect the deer woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It stayed pretty wild, even if it didn't really drift into as bonkers as the theories were. But that scene was where I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm in all the way. This is great. This is so much fun, and I liked watching the cop and the detective, the FBI, right? He was an FBI agent who does the animal attacks.
I think he was just supposed to be a police officer.
Oh, wait, just like a detective, right?
Yeah, just a detective.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Also, have you guys seen Innocent Blood?
No.
Directed by John Landis?
Yes.
The vampire, this is kind of like that, except this is more ridiculous, but, a vampire mafia movie.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. So, and, that's one of my favorite lesser-known John Landis films. And that movie, when I saw it, I was kind of like, wait, what's going on? Wait, what is this, a comedy? Is this a horror movie? It's really, really bloody, and this isn't as bloody, but
Landis was the right guy to direct this story, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The one before it, Homecoming. You're like, oh, political satire, and then this is just horror comedy, on purpose, B movie.
Yeah, I forgot the scene where the other, I don't know if he was a coroner, his name was Bill, and he's like, I said hello, and he's just pissed off because Dwight didn't say hello back. I just found that whole, it was such a small scene, but it made me laugh a lot. I don't know why. Chris, what do you think?
I fucking love this episode, man. You guys brought up so many good scenes, but yeah. Oh man, I think I fucked up. Yeah. My favorite scene in the entire first season 1 was the scene where he's laying in bed trying to reimagine how the crime went down. And yes, the best one was the guy with the deer head and the flannel shirt. But I think my second favorite one was the one where the woman pulls out the 2 deer hooves and starts punching the guy.
Yes!
So good. Hands down. Hooves down.
Oh, yeah, this was not one of the scariest episodes, but I thought episode 6 was funny, but this one, the humor just it hit on all levels for me. The chick was really hot. The chicks were really hot.
Even the fake deer woman, she was hot.
Yeah. Funnily enough, you can't watch Dream On anymore.
Really?
Well, they never did a Blu-ray cut. So they only ever released the first 2 seasons, and it was a 7-season show. I own the first 2 seasons on DVD, but I'm assuming the whole reason why they don't have it on streaming is because of the rights to using all of those black and white, scenes from. I don't know if they were all. I mean, they obviously weren't owned by HBO because HBO hadn't started when those scenes that they used for all the cuts and the edits were filmed. So I imagine it's mostly just a rights thing. But yeah, that's like that was one of their first big straight up HBO original programming series.
That was big, like when Tales from the Crypt was big, right?
Yeah.
Which is before it. I think Dream On was like the first show.
And you can't. It's still one of the only ones they don't have on, like Max,
right,
or have had ever on any of their streaming platforms. But yes, I love this episode. It was really good.
Also, the scene with the old lady and with the monkey and the fucking dog, and he's just drawing shit. Like, God, there was a lot of great scenes in it, and for an episode 7 of a 13-episode thing, this was the perfect amount of levity that this series needed before it went, where it goes.
Oh, even like the supporting, like Dana, I thought was really strong for being just like a supporting part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the fact that, like, the scene in the office with, like, the chief and everybody just kept saying, "Shut up, Fuchs." Like, they told him to shut up, like, 5, 6, 7 times. There was, like, so many little small things that hit just right, I think. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Other than that, I'll leave it up to number 8.
Oh, that's me. All right. Episode 8, Cigarette Burns. Originally aired December 16th, 2005. Directed by John Carpenter. Written by Drew McWeeny? I might have written that wrong. McWeeny. And Rebecca Swan. Okay. So let's get into it. A man searches for a rare film for an eccentric movie collector, played by Udo Kier, that is said to incite its audience into a frenzy before the theater in which it plays bursts into flames. Starring Norman Reedus as the searcher, and then, like I said, Udo Kier as the collector, Mr. Bellinger. Norman Reedus' character is Kirby Sweetman. The film in question is La Fin Absolue du Monde, which is French for the absolute end of the world. On his search for this film, he meets an obsessive reviewer that gives him a tape-recorded interview with the film's director that leads to Kirby having hallucinations. A film archivist that was a projectionist at a private screening in 1988, a deranged director that has access to the infamous director's estate that leads to the director's widow of said film, The Absolute End of the World. What I love about this film is the question that it leaves with me. Does obsession ever feel like it fulfills you when all it actually does is consume you? Between the angel cut, the angel wings being cut off, the guy chained up, this was a wild ride. It was kind of set apart from a lot of other John Carpenter movies, even in that in-between time. This very much stands out on its own. Yeah, I love this. I'll leave it up to you guys to fill in the blanks that I left.
Go ahead, Ken.
Well, I guess I would first say that, Kevin, I assume that you understand why I wanted you to do this one, because there was a lot of film nerdy stuff going on, and it was Carpenter. I really felt this was more definitely your style. This, for, I don't know, I think it's still to this day, this is considered by the majority to be the best episode of Masters of Horror that they ever did. This is considered the best. Yeah, there's so many things that, I don't know, there's just, I like the butler, I don't know, the Asian gentleman that lives with Bellinger, like, you see him all fucking cut up, and then at the end, though, he gives the angel the key to unlock himself. I always thought that was a cool scene. I always thought when he visits the dude, I think his name was like Dalabalo or something, Dalibor. I thought that whole thing, like, they just grab him, they inject him, they tie him up, and they have this other girl there, and they just machete her fucking head off. I was like, wow, shit just kind of got... Shit escalates in this one really, like, really randomly and really fun. I don't know. Like, the only thing I thought maybe could have made it slightly better is maybe if they would have had a little bit more about Annie and or her father. I could have used a little bit more story with that. And yeah, that's like, I don't have any complaints. I've seen this, I don't know, 7-8 times. I'm a big fan of it. I don't really have complaints. So, Chris, this was your first time. Did it leave an indelible mark on you?
All right, so when I said earlier, when we were discussing that the highs and the lows are where they combine pastiches of, like, different genres, different movies, what have you, and I pointed out Dance of the Dead as one of the lows, trying to combine a whole bunch of stuff and just failing to execute on it. This was great, and in my mind, it was like a mash of The Ninth Gate, In the Mouth of Madness, what the 8mm, Event Horizon, and like religious iconography and Lovecraft all merged together into one story that worked better than exceeded the sum of its parts. I like Norman Reedus, but I don't think he's ever really stretched very far. I think you could look at most of the characters that he's played and been like, yeah, Norman Reedus plays himself for the most part. And that works fine in this story. Yeah, for this one, I think I have to give the standout to Udo Kier. Like, just fucking knocking it out of the park as weird, creepy fucking dude. Yeah, it's great. Like, the one portion that you were talking about with Dalibor is like a better 8mm than the entire 8mm movie was.
I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really enjoyed this one. It was good, and the other thing that I liked about it was the fact that, for something called Masters of Horror, it was scary, or at least attempted to be scary, compared to a lot of the ones where they were either horror comedies or they didn't even make the attempt, like with Chocolate.
I forgot to mention how amazing... I always love the scene, it's right at the end, where Bellinger is, like, feeding his intestine into the fucking projection.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
That's fucking...
Yeah.
Like, that's a great scene.
That was one of the best deaths, too, in the show.
Oh, yeah. No, it was wild. I almost didn't see it getting that wild, even after the whole, like, you mentioned, the director thing. It just cranks up. Yeah, and you were right. The whole, like, nerd, like, film nerd thing, and being a collector, and not that I'm, like, trying to get rare films or anything, but just, like, collecting movies and having them, and this was cool.
Do you guys...
I almost could have done without the story of Norman Reedus's...
Oh, the girl? Yeah.
Dead wife?
Do you think he could have... Yeah. I think he could have asked for at least $500K. Like, considering all the shit that he had to go through and risking his life just for this, like, I don't know, I kind of feel like he gave him a bargain at $200K. I don't know. I came across thinking, like, Bellinger was definitely a millionaire, right?
He had to have been a multimillionaire to afford, like, an angel locked up in a dungeon.
And liquid, not including probably his film collection, which is...
right.
Priceless, probably, whatever price you can put on it, of what someone's willing to pay.
So here's a question for you guys. Do you think this worked better as a 59-minute film, or do you think it would have worked better stretched out into something like an hour and a half, hour and 45?
I've had this conversation before.
I would love to see it.
Yeah, I would like to see how they would pad out the timing. I would have liked a little bit more time with Dalibor. I could have done more with Myers. I loved those scene with Myers. Maybe have Kirby have to go to a few more places. Maybe his scene with Katja could have been a little longer. Maybe we could have gotten more with the wife and the father, or maybe we just cut that out and just kind of branch out to some other obsession of his. You could do any number of things, but I think I've always argued that I like the time that, like, they don't waste time in this. I feel if you go 90 minutes, they're going to waste some time. So I'm good with this length.
They would have, like, probably done a flashback of the first viewing of the show, of the movie.
Yeah, and they probably would have done, like, a lot more
and they
with,
don't
like,
do that.
Kirby and Annie. Like, they probably would have delved a lot deeper into that. And
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Is it necessary? Probably not. Like, this is the epitome of, like, trimming the fat into, like, a perfect hour-long movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job with what they had. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't really seen anything Carpenter's done since then, but, you know, some of the stuff he did before it, this was like a really good return to form for some of his earlier shit compared to, like, Ghosts of Mars or Escape from L.A.
Ghosts of Mars rules.
Yeah, no, this might have been his last great thing that he did.
Yeah, I mean, I think he only did The Ward for feature length.
And a lot of people didn't like The Ward. I don't think I liked it.
I liked it, but it's not... Like, I think it was just John Carpenter doing kind of movies that were being made at the time and doing his...
Right.
Maybe not say, like, his own thing, but... If it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad compared to the movies. But compared to John Carpenter, I mean, he's so great that it... like some of his movies... He's like five... You probably name like 5 movies off the top of your head of John Carpenter that are just amazing. Or iconic.
Just horror ones, without getting into, Escape from New York or Big Trouble in Little China. You can go with They Live, The Thing, In the Mouth of Madness, fucking Halloween. Actually, Village of the Damned isn't a bad movie. Christine's great. Body Bags was actually pretty damn entertaining. I don't want to say it was great, but it was entertaining. I even liked John Carpenter's Vampires. A lot of people like The Fog. Like... when you say master of horror, he is the master of horror. I mean, unless somebody wants to argue for, like, Hitchcock, but I think Hitchcock is what? I don't know.
Master suspense.
What is?
Yeah.
Suspense. Yeah. Okay.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
Hitchcock doesn't really have
is
horror.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Overall, really good experience.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, we gonna go to a really fair hair.
Oh, Jesus. So episode 9, A Fair Hair Child, aired January 6, 2006, directed by William Malone, written by Mick Garris and Matt Greenberg, stars Laurie Petty, Lindsay Pulsifer, and William Samples. So you have a girl who is kind of ostracized in her school. Sees some shit going down in the woods. Thinks she's being followed. Doesn't see anybody following her, and then gets fucking rammed out of nowhere by a van. Like that. I gotta say, that was one of the most realistic looking vehicle hits I've seen in a movie lately. Somebody, you don't see who, you just know it's a man, walks over, grabs her, drugs her, and throws her in the back of his van and drives away. She wakes up in a place that she doesn't recognize, where creepy-looking Lori Petty is giving her the third degree while pretending she's a nurse, and still she starts asking, like, hey, are you sexually active? Are you a virgin? Long story short, Lori Petty and William Sample's child died, and they made a deal with a demon in order to sacrifice 12 virgins in order to bring their child back to life. They throw Tara, who is the Lindsay Pulsifer's character, into the basement where the demon is, and it pops out of the somehow still living body of their son who has amnesia. This is a lot of nowhere for this episode. They tried to do some psychedelic stuff with the flashbacks and the memories. It didn't work for me. The fair-haired child monster is probably one of the stupidest designs I've ever seen. Completely unscary. The acting was pretty spot on, but overall, the only thing I really liked about this episode was the twist towards the end that I don't want to spoil, because if anybody watches it, that's, like I said, the only thing that I enjoyed about the episode. I don't know. Like, for me, this is kind of like a middle of the road in regards to where it sits in the rankings. It wasn't the worst. It was nowhere near the best. It just kind of ran on between a creature feature slightly and some interesting psychedelic flashbacks. Again, like I said, the performances were pretty good, though. And I did like the ending after the twist. But I'll let you guys take it away from there.
Okay, I'll go, because I don't really have too much more to add, but I did like the beginning. It didn't take long to get creepy. The high school girl getting hit by the van and then getting pulled into it, and then Lori Petty, which was a plus and really good in this, but basically, and this is my problem with, like, a lot of different movies, is when they have this cool, mysterious, basic, but, like, mysterious plot that could go in a number of different ways, and then once they start explaining it, which you actually did a really good job, Chris, by the way. Thanks for taking this one for the team. Yeah, I lose interest. Like, it's kind of like certain parts of Lost where they start explaining stuff and it kind of ruins the mystery. And with the answers, I mean, and not to compare this to Lost, because Lost had a thing of, like, answering something and then giving you 10 more questions. This just makes me feel less engaged. I did like the black and white flashbacks. It was kind of like artsy, almost like a German expressionist kind of vibe, without, you know, the full wonkiness of those films. Not very artsy, but it felt kind of artsy. I didn't see it turning into a real deal monster movie either. That was kind of a surprise, but yeah, I would say this is the most basic feeling so far, even though, like I said, Chris did a great job explaining this and making it feel more interesting than I would have been able to explain it to be. So, yeah. What'd you think, Kent?
Alright, so I gotta disagree on something. I thought Lindsay Pulsifer, I hated her acting throughout the first half of this. I thought it was really... She got better as it went on, and I don't know if I'm blaming her as an actress or the directing. I don't know where the blame lies, but there was some times where her acting was shit early on. That is where I will disagree. also, props for Walter Phelan to be Johnny Thing, because, that was a shit role, and his most famous role is being Dr. Satan in House of a Thousand Corpses, which was another shit role. So, I don't know. He kind of takes on shit roles. One thing that I'm sure neither of you would have bothered to even pick up on, and rightfully so, did either of you pay attention to when the date that Johnny was born on?
I don't remember.
No.
Well, as you can imagine, the number is significant, and it was September 2nd, 9 Deuce. So...
Oh, I think
Gotcha.
Actually. Is that where it came from, Kent?
No. I only realized it this time watching. I was like, wait a second. And then I was like, oh yeah, he also died on his birthday. So I was like, double 9 Deuce. This is great. And this was, I don't know, I think I told you both, like I was just going to do like a random number generator to determine the order I watched these. And this was the first one that I watched. I was like, what a fucking ominously terrible start, until I saw the 9 Deuce. And I was like, okay, like... whatever. I'm so over like the girl that would be attractive in like 85% of high schools being like treated like shit in movies, but that's a trope that just will always be. And Lori Petty, I love her, I adore her. I can't be mad at her. It was okay, but this is definitely on my bottom half. Like this. If this was season 2, this might actually, stand a chance being talked about more favorably. But compared to most of what we talked to, this is definitely on the bottom end of that, in my opinion. So, not a huge fan.
Yeah.
This would have been a great first episode for you, Kent.
Yeah.
I guess it was.
It was like it was fun actually doing the random number generator, because I didn't really have to put any thought into it. So yeah, it was actually a fun endeavor doing it that way. But all right, is there anything more about Fair Haired Child we need to talk about?
That was it for me.
God, no.
Okay then.
All right, Kevin, why don't you bring us into episode 10, Sick Girl?
All right. Sick Girl, directed by Lucky McGee, story by Sean Hood, teleplay by Sean Hood and Lucky McGee. Episode is called Sick Girl. I did not know who Lucky McGee was, and looking him up, I didn't get any further into that either, but he did All Cheerleaders Die, which sounded very interesting. And Sean Hood wrote Halloween Resurrection, the writer on here.
Lucky McGee did May, one of the better 2000s horror movies, starring Angela Bettis. So, there's the connection.
Yes, a shy entomologist's drab life is changed by this simultaneous arrival of a large bug and torrid affair with a sexy young woman. I just stole the tagline from Google. Ida, Angelus Bettis, I like how she baby talks to her tarantula. Might be why her girlfriend broke up with her, along with a wide variety of insects all over her apartment, which she gets a mysterious package and contains a large mantis-like insect delivered to her. Ida asks out the beautiful and strange Misty, Aaron Brown, a.k.a. Misty Monday, out on a date, which, watching these two awkward characters at the restaurant is great. A lot of fun during the intimate scene. Ida's mantis-like insect, named Mick, nips Misty's ear, which Misty dismisses. In the morning, Ida wakes up to find Misty has found her bug stash and she's been hiding, and it turns out Misty knows a great deal about bugs, and they spend more time together. Misty starts to get sick over a period of few days. From here on out, it really paces itself until the end, where it becomes a full-blown creature feature. It's the last 5 minutes, maybe less, before the credits, and it's over as quickly as it gets started. I think this was a full feature length. We would have more time and people to explode in blood, and maybe more creature stuff. And I think this could have been maybe a little bit better if it was a full 88, maybe just under 90 minutes. But I really like this. This was a good movie, and really Angela Bettis, who is probably my favorite female lead character or performance in probably the entire first season so far. So I'm going to throw it over to you guys. What do you guys think?
I just want to say one thing. I like how very, very non-specific you were. 88 minutes or maybe below 90 minutes. You left a lot of wiggle room there, Kevin.
75.
Yeah. All right, Chris, go ahead.
There were a lot of things to like about this. The performances were really good, but this one, I don't think you could make it today. It is so anti-LGBT, it's not funny. Like, the characters get fucked up. One of them is intentionally targeted to die because she was a lesbian and the guy's daughter was attracted to her. I mean, like, that is fucking... That bothered me more than a lot of the more overtly icky things that we saw throughout the season, whether it was, people getting stabbed in the eye or, a dude's putting his own guts into a film projector. And then on top of that, this deals with insects, which are like my one weakness, as you know, Kent. And
preach.
I was watching this and I was like, thankfully that Mick looked fake, because if it had looked realistic, I would have been so disturbed by this whole episode. I don't know if I could have watched it.
That's a note I actually had too. Yeah. I was like, thankfully he looked so outrageously fake that it didn't skeeve me out as much as the little spider crawling on her chest early on.
Or the fucking stick bug that she's fucking kissing, making I was like, what the
yeah.
Good for her that she can fucking do that though, man. The performances were really strong between Angela Bettis and Aaron Brown. Even the guy who played Max was good. But yeah, between the connotations there with the professor and then the landlady being so anti-gun. You're going to turn my granddaughter into a lesbian by kissing each other in the hallway. I was like, what the fuck is... I had to look to see what year it was made, because it really felt like something you would have seen 1990s or maybe even 1980s. Yeah, fuck those bugs though, man. And the ending, being
the ending. I knew you were gonna have a problem with this. My girlfriend woke up. I was watching these in the morning before I won't go to work, so 10 a.m. to 11, maybe 9:30 to 10:30, something like that. And she would wake up right after this, and I was like, you're glad you didn't wake up for this one, because it was all bugs. So wait, I have a question. Do you think that the point of view of the writers was anti-LGBT? Because
I
didn't feel that way. I
doubt it, but
the old woman did feel kind of prehistoric in her beliefs, but I think
was that the point?
That's kind of...
I could see I could see the old woman being okay, but the fucking professor is I'm gonna murder my fucking student that I corresponded with, and because my daughter is attracted to her, on the possibility that they could somehow get together one day. That bothered me. I'm like, that's fucking evil.
Well, here's the thing: is that all had to been changed around, because originally the role of Ida was supposed to be Ira, a guy. So if you think about that, you think about how much this whole fucking story changes if Ida is a guy, and how this whole thing just doesn't even work. Like, the comedy between Ida and Max doesn't work if Ida's Ira, right? Like, so much of this fucking thing works because they fucking got Angela Bettis to and they changed the gender of the character. Otherwise, this whole thing is actually probably one of the worst episodes if we have a lead male instead. Think about that. It's weird.
Yeah, it would.
Absolutely agree. And the lesbian love story is what really kind of like separates this, and it's good. It's like quirky and without being. I mean, it's like a romantic comedy with bugs, but then all that. Yeah.
So I one thing Kevin said I don't agree with really fucking drove me up a wall. I hated the fucking baby talk to the bugs. I hated the voice that she used. But typically, I'm not a big fan of anybody talking to fucking pets in like some weird voice. Anyways, that's just not me. So like, I don't know. Whatever. I didn't like her voice using it.
The fact that it was a tarantula, though.
That part's comedic. I just didn't like the tone of her voice. I don't know. I found it, like, weird and whatever. This introduced me to Misty Monday, and I don't normally have crushes on any Hollywood starlets whatsoever, but she is one of, like, the very few exceptions that I still absolutely adore Misty Monday, and yeah, I don't think that ever changes. I've really loved her in this. I already knew Angela and Lucky to a degree because I'd seen May. So this all kind of really stuck true, for what I was kind of hoping for. I know we talked about, I think Kevin brought up the whole date scene in the restaurant, but Max and Ida's scene was funnier when they found the bug in the Chinese and the whole fucking restaurant was like retching and like escaping out the fucking restaurant. That scene was better in my opinion.
Is that Chinese or is that German?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
That really... this was like a nice mixture of horror because a lot of people, like myself and Chris, are freaked out by fucking bugs. But it also had like some charming moments. The granddaughter, Ladybug, like she was fun. I really liked her. And I don't know, like since we didn't get the professor on screen, it was good to have somebody to actively hate. So we got to hate on Lana, the grandmother. This isn't the strongest episode, but I don't ever sit there and go, oh, sick girl, I'm going to skip this. No, I'm usually pretty good when I go to, like, rewatch these. I'm usually really happy to get to this one. So, and like, the weird, I don't know, the fantasy sequence, like, that was, like, partially animated. I really thought that looked, like, artistically, that was really nicely done. And it only partially had something to do with Misty being nude. Partially. And, yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, it was good.
Anything else?
All right. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then I get the next one, which is called Pick Me Up, I believe. And it was directed by Larry Cohen. I haven't seen any of his stuff. He directed It's Alive, and there was 2 sequels after that. He did The Stuff, which is something that's long been on my to-do list. He did a Return to Salem's Lot, which I've read enough to know that is complete and utter dog shit. And he did something called Deadly Illusion, which, I don't know, whatever. So I'm not familiar with his work. Fairuza Balk, I know probably my favorite role of hers was in American History X as Ed Norton's woman. But, you know, I mean, she even played, like, Dorothy in Return to Oz. She's done a lot of stuff. So I liked her. She was a strong lead here, and yet she got completely outshined, not because of performance, but by the roles that they were given. Fucking Michael Moriarty fucking steals this whole thing for me. Like, he is great in his role. I love his voice. I love all the random lines they give him. And Warren Cole. I don't know who Warren Cole is, but I liked him because he reminded me a little bit of the bald guy that was like the bad guy in Titanic and also in Demon Knight, Billy Zane. He reminded me a little bit of Billy Zane in like his mannerisms and stuff. I liked it. Big fan. So this is like a weird sick game slasher thing that slowly plays out. There's a bus, it breaks down, truck driver comes by, gives few people a ride, hitchhiker shows up, and these guys are both serial killers, and they know each other, they're kind of competing, and Feruza, whose character was named, like, Stacia? I don't know if they ever say her name, but that's what she's labeled, Stacia. She just says, fuck it, I'm going to walk to a motel. And, like, every place she goes, like, bad shit just kind of happens, but they don't focus on her too much in, gosh, the first 20 to 30 minutes. She's not a huge focus. But she becomes kind of final girl material. And, you know, we get the two guys, and they slowly kill off the people that were on the bus. And by and large, Michael Moriarty gets a lot of great one-liners, and then once him and Walker are in talking to each other, like, the dialogue really just ups a notch. And eventually Moriarty, Jim Wheeler, that's his character, he talks Stacia into his truck, and then he knocks her unconscious, ties her up, and then he picks up Walker. And, like, as she's screaming the whole time, these guys are just cracking jokes and whatnot, and that whole, I don't know, that scene alone really amused me greatly. At the end, she kind of slams on the brakes, the two guys go flying out, and an ambulance picks everybody up, and we have this really cool, fun twist at the end. I don't want to give it away, just in case, you know, somebody's listening to this that don't want it spoiled. I'm not going to spoil it. I will say, smart ending. I really enjoyed it. I think this may have been some of the best dialogue in the whole series of Masters of Horror. I think Michael Moriarty stood out as one of the best performers in season 1. I don't have like anything negative to say. There wasn't like any downtime where I was like bored or anything. I was kind of into it pretty much the whole way through. So, big fan, really liked it. I definitely intentionally picked this one for me because I was a big fan. I'm hoping you guys liked it as much as I did.
I am a Larry Cohen fan. I've seen a few of his things. He wrote the Maniac Cop movies. He didn't direct them, but he wrote those. Those are well, the first two. I haven't seen the third one in a while, but
those are
great.
Classics,
They're kind of fun. And the stuff is pretty good. You should, if you like Michael Moriarty, even though I think he's like better in this than the other movies. He's a frequent collaborator. I can't even say it. Collaborator with Larry Cohen. God Told Me To is pretty wild, and my personal favorite is special effects. Anyways, back to this. This was cool. Yeah, Fairuza Balk. It's like she's in the beginning, and she's like the first. I think she's like the first name in the credits, and you're like, oh, Fairuza Balk's in this, great. And then she's in the first scene, and then she's not in the next 20 minutes, and I totally forgot that she was in it because I was so into the truck driver, especially, and I kind of forgot that it was even gonna like kind of go back to her, and there was some great deaths. Yeah, I would not give away the twist ending, but it was great, and I really didn't see it coming, and it was fun. Just it kind of reminded me of a Tales from the Crypt episode. Not even though it's kind of different, but the one with the motorcycle guy with the crows and stuff. I don't know why, but the cop,
the vultures,
or whatever, the guy who gets handcuffed as cop. I don't feel like it's like very close to that, but it feels kind of in that same vein.
I can see that. Yeah.
But yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't have a lot written for this, but I found it very suspenseful, and two serial killers that just so. I like the mysteriousness in the beginning, where I wasn't really sure that the hitchhiker and the truck driver were separate or working together. They just happened to be on the same stretch of highway, and that stuff kind of happens with the Long Island serial killer. There was like a lot of different bodies on the highway that I feel like were now recently explained as two separate serial killers, but like that shit happens in real life. And Larry Cohen is great fun if you're into him, because usually his movies are really badly edited and stuff, and this was definitely very well done.
Yeah, it's such a simple concept that I'm really surprised, like, nobody ever did it before, but, like, having two different serial killers, like, competing and being upset because their ideologies are exactly different. You know, like, one kills people who hitchhike, the other is the hitchhiker and kills people who pick him up. I mean, that's such a simple premise, but they did it so well. And yeah, like, just the creepiness in the scenes with Michael Moriarty and Warren Cole. Incidentally, the first thing I saw Warren Cole in was The Following, the one with Kevin Bacon and James Purefoy on TV, about the serial killer who attracts an entire cult of serial killers who, work for him. I've also then on the opposite side seen him play law enforcement. He was somebody's parole officer in something I was watching. I don't remember. Anyways, just a really good episode, really strong, and again, good twist at the end.
I forgot to mention how much I enjoyed the scene where Michael Moriarty's like buying all the fucking sweets, and the cashier like fucking runs his mouth ever so quickly and just pisses him off. I love that whole scene. I thought it was really, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. Well, one last thing. Marie was over the top, kind of funny, but her dude, his name, although it's never said, was Deuce. So there we go. Anyway, on that horrible note, Chris,
they were
got
great.
Hakel's Tale, and I know you sound a little down, and I'm kind of curious to hear what you got to say, because I don't know, I like it.
All right, so Hakel's Tale aired January 7th, 2006, directed by John McNaughton, written by Mick Garris, based on a story by Clive Barker, which I didn't know before going in this, but after seeing it, yeah, I can see it. I'm not even going to get into his IMDb, doesn't really list who are the fucking stars of the episodes anyways. So, it opens with a guy going to a rundown house and excuse me, what appears to probably be somewhere around 1880s. And it feels like America, but it could also very well be Britain. Looking for a woman who he thinks can resurrect his dead wife. And this lady that he meets says, yes, I possibly can do it, but let me tell you a story about Hakel first. And we get introduced to young Ernst Haeckel, who is basically a slightly more modern version of Frankenstein. They actually reference the fact that Frankenstein existed in this universe and performed experiments to try to bring the dead to life. And this is also a world where apparently magic exists because John Polito plays a dude named Montesquino who brings a dog back to life to purport to Haeckel that necromancy is real. But he still is a disbeliever. He's going to reanimate the dead through science. He finds out that his dad is dying, so he heads home on foot. Long way. And while he is attempting to rest outside of a graveyard, older guy named Wolfram finds him and says, "Hey, come back to my place. It's nearby and you can have food and bunk down in my spare bedroom." And Haeckel's like, "Okay, sure." So he gets there, notices that Wolfram has a hot wife named Elise, who seems to be attracted to him. The creepiness and the atmosphere are off the chain for the next couple of scenes. And then Haeckel sees Elise leave the house, and he follows her, and he sees Montesquino in the graveyard, and they have brought back Elise's ex-husband and many other zombies in the graveyard who begin to run a zombie gangbang on Elise. And it goes from there. And I really don't know what the whole purpose of this episode was, other than to have zombies running a train on a relatively attractive actress. I didn't feel like there was a theme. I didn't feel like there was a moral. The twist you probably should have seen coming if you were paying attention during the episode, which is also kind of creepy. I mean, I'm wondering how the zombies managed to survive that long without decaying any more than what they already did. But it wasn't funny. It wasn't scary, but it did have a ton of ambience and atmosphere, and I'll give it that. The scenes in Wolfram's house have like an undercurrent of tension. You don't know like where it's going, what's coming up if you haven't seen it before. I was not a huge fan, but I do have to say that yeah, the tension was pretty high. Not quite as on par as following Pick Me Up, but better than a lot of the other ones that I would rate towards the bottom of the series.
Fair enough.
Yeah, go ahead, Kat. I don't have a whole lot written, so you go. I'll fill in what you don't mention.
Okay. First off, really happy to see John Polito, because he's a private dick in Big Lebowski. Always happy to see him. This initially reminded me of a Twilight Zone episode where a guy came into an old West town and he claimed that he could resurrect the dead, and the whole twist was he sent in like his business partner 2 weeks earlier to find out who in the town had died, so like he could kind of talk shit to the people that wanted people resurrected, and he was going to charge them, but then he started charging people because they didn't want these people brought back to life. It was kind of a quirky little twist, and this reminded me, John Polito's character reminded me very much of that. I will say that early on, I thought that the old lady, Mrs. Carnation, I thought she was a fucking gangster because she's just sitting by herself, door is unlocked, just lets this young dude in, and she is not at all, like, worried at all. Like, just, oh, this is cool. Fucking dude just gonna come in my house. All right. Much respect. When Elise was making the bed for Haeckel, Haeckel was basically as far up her ass as humanly possible. Like, there was no, like, space buffer whatsoever. And I'm just like, what the fuck was Hakel thinking? Like, I know he was thinking it was dick, but simultaneously, like, a dude invites you over to his home so you can get out of the rain, and this is what you do. You bury your junk as far up his wife's ass as possible while she's making your bed. Like, he was kind of a dickhead. I don't know. I thought Hakel was an ass. I really found Elise, once again, the women in season 1 are incredibly attractive. Other than that, like, I thought it was quirky. I thought it was... I can't even use the term fun. I've used the term fun for a lot of things, and this doesn't qualify as fun. This is definitely not something where you have a friend over and you go, hey, you want to see this? No. You typically will not have a friend over and ask them. You would show them any number of episodes, probably not Hakel's Tale. On the other hand, when I showed it to my wife, she was thoroughly into it, and yeah. So I'm going to leave on that note. Kevin?
Yeah, you're hanging out with the wrong people. Except for your wife, obviously.
Kevin, when we hang out, can we watch a Serbian film someday together?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Salo?
That'll be our doubleheader.
Yeah, I've never seen that either. Okay, so, all right, 10 minutes in, and there's a naked woman's body on fire. I'd say experiment gone right. But it really picks up with John Polito of Blank Man. Blank Man was a movie that was on TV all the time, the Damon Wayans superhero movie, and he was the bad guy in it, and he's great in that. He's great in this. George Romero was supposed to direct this episode, but scheduling, because of scheduling, he didn't direct it, so it went to Jim McNaughton. I don't know if it would have been better if George Romero directed it. I think it would have been cooler if, like, Neil Jordan, or even better yet, Clive Barker.
Yeah, why have Romero do a zombie type movie? Like, Clive Barker would have been cooler.
It didn't even. Yeah, and like, it really doesn't even get to the zombie thing till way later, or I just wasn't paying attention.
No, you're right.
Because it's very Frankenstein-ish, not Night of the Living Dead, until the corpse fucking cuckold scene, which really shot this rating up high for me. And dude, I like the signature Clive Barker came to it. I think they should have asked him to do it. I don't know, but before it got to the zombie stuff, I was like, oh, Neil Jordan would have been cool, who is not also, I think, be like a master of horror, but I think he's done enough alongside John Landis to go on the list.
Neil Jordan could have hit it.
Yeah. I think the moral to the story is life is short, and girl, go get you a Crip baby. You're turning tricks in the cemetery. Yeah.
I mean, with all the setups that this gave, it potentially could have been rated pretty high as a horror comedy one too.
I like, the baby also looks exactly the same as it does, like, 40 years later. The people who get killed in the cemetery actually do have some decay to them, I guess, from at least from when they originally die, but the baby looks exactly the same. Like, I thought, that's I think that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add anymore either.
All right.
You know who would be great to direct this one? The guy who did Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Yeah, he directed something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring him back. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. You know, it'd be great. I mean, he did I think he did a good job, but this is pretty boring up until it gets really weird.
This is a really weird softcore porn more than a horror movie in many ways. In many good ways.
I thought it was better than... Yeah, I thought it was better than Necromantic.
Oh, God, a million times. I am not a Necromantic fan, and I know I'm into weird shit.
Or Cemetery Man, even, which...
Yeah.
They have their place.
I had so much more hope for Cemetery Man. I remember seeing the trailers back in the day and thought it looked awesome. And when I finally got it on DVD, I was like, I just lost 2 hours of my life.
It was slow, right? It was slow. It was cool. I think, like, back in those times, though, you could kind of live for a couple scenes that were weird, and I feel like these episodes go by a lot better because if there's just a couple scenes, and if they're like that, like Hakel's Tale, like it really makes up for it and is kind of makes up for it dragging along. So I'm kind of, I don't know, you've seen this a few times, Kent. Was it enjoyable to watch knowing that it was going to go that way?
No, it's weird because I hate using the term fun, but like there are times where, all right, when I was watching it with my wife, I'm sitting there laughing because I know, if you're watching it for the first time, I can imagine, what's going through your mind. So like inside, I'm fucking giggling, waiting for like this reveal of her just riding. Yeah, but there's a lot of there was a lot of positives. I think, actually, if you have the right kind of friends, you should show them this, and you will determine if you have a good friendship or not. I want to throw that out there. So, we good?
Yeah, yep. I was not expecting what I got with that one when I started
Chris.
that episode.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for... All right, that brings us to episode 13, the only one that never originally aired, Imprint by Takashi Miike. And Kevin, I think we're going to let you kick off the insanity that this episode was.
Oh, perfect. So, yes, episode 13, Masters of Horror Season 1, Imprint, directed by Takashi Miike, who directed Audition and Ichi the Killer. Teleplay by Daisuke Tegan. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Novel that it was based on is Boki Coyote by Shimako Inate. Iwaya. I'm fucking up my own handwriting on this. Okay. So it was originally supposed to air January 27th, 2006. It first premiered February 25th, 2006 at the Yabari International Fantastic Film Fest in Japan. Shelved due to being way too awesome. Shown in the UK April 7th, 2006. I think originally it was released with the DVD. The DVD release of this. Takashi Miike thought that this was right up to the line of what would fly with American audiences. He said he quote unquote underestimated that. Even after Mick Garris cutting shit out of it, they shelved it. Only to be released in the U.S. On DVD and eventually Blu-ray. I love how it starts with a floating dead pregnant prostitute. This episode is not of the human world. Only demons, horrors, and Billy Drago exist here. Disgusting, depraved, and deformed. I say, keep showing me your face, you slut. I admire Miike's bringing... I love that scene where he's like, stop showing me your face, you slut. I was like... No, keep showing me your face, you slut. I admire Miike bringing Shibari back to its disgusting roots of restraining captives and torture, Hojo Jutsu, before it morphed into the art of erotic bondage, Kinbaku. and then into whatever you want to call 50 Shades of Grey. The cinematography is terrific. The visuals are hard to watch, and simultaneously, I cannot look away. The most uncomfortable and intriguing visually and in story. The moral of this story to me is that if you hire Takashi Miike, don't be shocked that you get a Takashi Miike piece of art. Man, yeah, this is, there's the whole thing, too, about, victim turning into the victimizer. I did not write out the plot to this, so if you guys want to fill in that kind of stuff, I love this one. So, it definitely, even knowing going in to what is in the show, the episode, I kind of still forgot the twist of it, which was equally disgusting and compelling. So, Chris, why don't you take it away?
All right. Wow. So, a lot of lists I saw. If it's not cigarette burns, this one is rated as the number one, and a lot of them put it up there because of how explicit a lot of the content is in this. So I'm not gonna lie, I had high expectations going into this one. It was good. It was surreal. It was visceral. There are so many themes touched on, it's not even funny. Torture, incest, the lack of respect for children in Japan at the time. The one short woman's nose is cut off and nobody ever mentions it at all.
The touter.
But I was expecting so much more from what they were saying. Like the torture scene, yeah, it had me cringing a little bit, but from all of the hyperbole I was hearing around it, I was expecting something along the lines of like a Serbian movie, and it was so much more tame than that. I do like people have compared it to Rashomon, where you get one story and then a subtly different story and then a subtly different story, and so you're like, which one is the actual truth? But I think for me, the thing that dragged it down from being like top tier of this season was Billy Drago. Like, he is, and I don't want to say iconic, but he definitely has a look about him. And I've seen him give good performances and stuff, but he was the weakest part of the episode for me. Like, I just imagine like what this episode would have been like if they'd got somebody like Julian Sands to play the same part, and I think it would have been 100 times better. But I enjoyed it. It was different. I'll give it that. And like, the only other thing I would add was like the special effects for the twist. Like, if they had been able to get like maybe a little more budget in there, I think it would have worked better. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
All right. So for me, this will always hold a special place in my heart because this single fucking thing. So I downloaded this before it came out on DVD because I was pissed off that I couldn't see it on Showtime. So I downloaded it. I watched it, and I remember my mom got up to go to the bathroom, and when she came out, I was like, it was like fucking 3 a.m. I'm like, Mom, you gotta see this. And I made my mom like watch like some of the fucking torture scenes, and I'm in hindsight like that's a really dumb fucked up thing to do, but I was just utterly in awe because this was 2006 and we hadn't seen some of this stuff really. Once again, by today's standards, after we have seen some other things, it depends on what you were exposed to. I hadn't been exposed to a lot of torture stuff, but this inspired me to go look for some of the most fucked up films out there. And, well, that's how I come to Salo, a Serbian film, and any number of things that, most people shouldn't watch. So I thank this movie for opening my mind to other things, even though some of that shit's been utterly horrible and grotesque, whatever, including the film Grotesque, which never gets enough talk about, and that movie is fucked. I owe a lot to this, and it has nothing to do with the acting, because Billy Drago really just horribly miscast, and he looks like he has green hair at the end. So, something I will admit, because I find this so weird, today, it was the last thing I was watching right before we started, I noticed something that it never clicked in my head before. What they were really saying was that the girl with the messed up face, they never even give her a name, so when she's talking about why she killed Komomo, and she's talking about the whole heaven and hell thing, I never fully understood that until, I was really paying attention this time and taking notes. I was like, oh, that, it finally clicked for me. I know maybe I'm coming off like a jackass here for not picking up on this, 7 times before this, but whatever, here I am admitting this. It added another layer to a story that has many layers. Probably some of the layers are completely highly unnecessary, but whatever. I don't know, once again, I think Audition came out before Imprint, so if you knew what Mike was about, and you hire him on, at some point did nobody be like, hey, Showtime, we have this guy and he does some shit, okay? Are we good with this? You would think that, I don't know. It kind of got pulled out. The rug got pulled out a little too late, in my opinion. I was very upset when it didn't air. This is the episode I have seen the most, and I made copies. I gave them to friends. I was like, "You got to see this," and then I showed it to them. If they didn't want the DVD, I made them come over and I'd fucking show it to them. And some people liked me for it. A lot of people probably were disgusted by it. I don't know. It always the pins under the fingernails. Yeah. I don't know. Fingernail things kind of bothers me. Not as much as bugs, but still up there. And
it does 2 in a row, all the way to the blood comes out, of the fingernail, 2 in a row, you almost feel like they're going to do all 5.
Even then, I could deal with the fingernails over the gums.
The gums, because the sound effect of the gums, it's the sound effect that gets me. It's not watching it, it's the sound effect. I'm like, oh god, they went super deep into the gums. and then, she has to piss on herself. That's the coup de grace of the scene, I think. God, there's just so much going on to it, and I didn't need we'll say sister. That I didn't even need any of that, but one scene that also stands out, I like everything to do with the windmills, but when the fucking father does that fucking front kick to the mom when he's beating the shit out of her, he fucking, that was a great front kick. He fucking beats the fuck out of her, but the kick, sold everything. All for the sake. So, I imagine watching it now, if this was your first time watching it, it's a completely different experience than watching it back in 2006. I think that's a very acceptable thing to look at. It's been 18 years, so some time has gone by. So at the time, and I think it still holds up, just maybe not for all the same reasons that it felt great at the time, unless you're a filthy person like Kevin and myself. So
the sight and sound of the pee, like, it like gives me chills. Like, not thinking about it, but like it gave me chills, and I knew that it was coming because I remember that was like the first thing. Because once you get to the, I do agree with Chris. Once you get to the sister, it's not as well done as
it's
gruesomely. Yeah, it is, and I think it's meant to be. I think it's kind of, it's what gives it that flair. That's why I don't really like fault it too much. But
yeah, it's something that Miike's done in the past. He gets a little silly at times. It happens.
Yeah, absolutely. But so Greg Nicotero did every episode.
Yeah, I noticed.
Right? Like that was his thing. That's cool. That he got to work with all those people and Miike and some of that stuff. All the dead fetuses.
Here's a question. Here's a quick question. Would the movie have been better served if everybody spoke their native language and just did subtitles? Or did you prefer the awkwardness of some of the actors trying their best to do, English?
It worked. I think it definitely 100 times would have been better. And like Chris mentioned, Julian Sands would have been a great choice.
Awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. But Billy Drago doesn't really get a lot of stuff, and he was definitely serviceable. He was like, he did like The Untouchables, and that's probably like his most critically acclaimed work. And then really obscurity, bad action films, that I enjoy. But
he was like in the 8th Children of the Corn.
He was in, like Mission and Missing in Action, like 3, 4, 5, and 6.
The good ones.
He's like at the end of like Cynthia Rothrock's career.
Yeah, there you go.
It was in one of those movies, but it was like, that was the kind of movies me and my brother watched before we got into like Quentin Tarantino stuff and stuff like that. But, or me personally, anyways. Not to speak for my brother. But yeah. I do want to say that the best shot in the whole thing was when, was it the mom who drops the dead the fetus into the, or is it the baby?
It's the baby
into the river, and then all of the wind.
Yeah.
The little, what are the
their little pinwheels.
Fans? Yeah, the pinwheels started going, like the way they all started going. I thought that was an amazing shot. Like, that was pretty technical and with the context of what was going on, it was effective.
Yeah. It's an odd movie, but there's a lot of cool, intricate things. But if you're not into the story, I don't know. Like, I could see where some people just would not be into this, But for me, it was
obviously.
The whole abortion thing is a kind of a touchy thing. But
and
they were not delicate.
It's almost comedic in the way that they just fucking toss them towards the end.
Yeah.
But this isn't one that like I would be ashamed to show people, but I know that there would be a ton of people who would not be like into this, in my friends list.
Right, there were plenty of my friends that I did not show this to. Specifically females. I just avoided that whole fucking segment by and large. I think I've shown it to 2 girls. It's been mostly guys, because you never know what happened in a girl's past, if she had an abortion or not, and how sensitive she's going to be about it. So I was just like, fuck that. I'm not stepping on no landmines. So, with that being said, can we get to the fun part?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to hit our rankings for this season. Kevin, you said you wanted to start?
Yeah. we'll start with number 13 for me is Fair-Haired Child, directed by William Malone. I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Interesting. Okay, my number 13 was Dance of the Dead by Tobe Hooper.
All right, and my number 13 was also Dance of the Dead.
Really?
Yeah, I could see that.
I was pissed off because it's a poor use of Robert Englund. I think that's damning to me.
So we are going to switch it up a little bit. And my number 12 was Chocolate by Mick Garris.
So
I'll go. My number 12 is also Chocolate by Mick Garris. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10.
Kevin, you are such a generous bastard when it comes to these ratings. Chris, remember how I earlier said that I think there's a good chance we may have our bottom three may be similar?
Yes.
Yeah, Chocolate, number 12. So all three of us with that one.
All right. Why don't you go first for number 11 then, Kat?
I went with Fair-Haired Child.
Interesting. Kevin, what about you?
Sick Girl by Lucky McGee.
Ooh, I was not expecting that.
No, I thought that was going to be like higher for Kevin.
7.5 out of 10.
My number 11 was Hakel's Tale by... Shit, I don't even remember who it was by
Jim McNaughton.
Thank you. There we
Not
go.
George Romero. That's all we know.
Yes.
Or Clive Barker.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll kick off number 10. My number 10 was Fair-Haired Child. And I just want to point out that for my bottom four, 3 of them were the ones I got. So...
Wait, Kent, what was your number 11?
My number 11 was Fair-Haired Child.
Fair-Haired Child. Okay, yeah, that's right.
All right.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Number 10 is Pick Me Up by Larry Cohen.
Wow. All right. I went with Homecoming because it wasn't my thing. It's perfectly fine, but All right. I can kick off.
Kevin, why don't you kick off? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'll say my number 9 was Dreams in the Witch House.
Well, my number 9 was Sick Girl.
My number 9 was Incident on and Off a Mountain Road, directed by Don Coscarelli.
Wow. All right, Kevin, just follow right up.
Okay. Which I feel like is a testament to all of these because I did like that one a lot. And okay, number 8, Dance of the Dead, Tobe Hooper.
Chris?
My number 8 was Homecoming. John Landis.
My number 8 was
Excuse me.
Hakel's Tale. We are on 8, right? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so just jump into 7 then, Ken.
Okay, my number 7 was Sick Girl. So I had that rated higher than you guys both.
My number 7 was Homecoming by Joe Dante.
My number 7 was Imprint by Takashi Miike. And since I'll just jump into my number 6 was Dreams in the Witch House by Stuart Gordon.
All right. My number 6 was Jennifer.
Nice. My number 6 was Hakel's Tale by John McNaughton.
Follow right up, Kevin.
All right. My number 5. Oh, we're in the top 5. The Dear Woman by John Landis.
My number 5 was Jennifer.
I'm just excited that Dear Woman cracked everybody's top 5. That was my number 5, was Dear Woman.
Nice.
So I'll follow that up with my number 4, which was Incident on and Off a Mountain Road.
My number 4 was H.P. Lovecraft's Dreams in the Witch House by Stuart Gordon.
My number 4 was Incident on and Off a Mountain Road. And my number 3 was Pick Me Up.
Okay. Number 3. My number 3, which I still feel is probably too low, but Cigarette Burns.
My number 3 is Jennifer by Dario Argento. And my number 2 is Cigarette Burns by John Carpenter.
My number 2 was Dear Woman.
Whoa.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Really,
That's awesome.
the humor, it just hit. It just hit everything. I was so happy that night I watched that.
My number 2 was Imprint, and therefore that makes my number 1 Pick Me Up.
My number 1 is Imprint by Takashi Miike, which is probably no surprise.
And my number 1 was Cigarette Burns. Again, like that just... I was impressed by how much I enjoyed that after seeing a lot of like middling Carpenter lately. It almost felt like a return to form.
Yeah, I still think it was his last great hurrah, quite frankly, and it was a great hurrah too. So, yeah, like I'm looking at this. I mean, Cigarette Burns did good on all of our lists, and fucking Dear Woman outperformed. Really surprised and happy with that.
It was so hard to rate that one, and kind of Hakel's Tale too. Like Homecoming and Dear Woman, one after another. Like one day, and then the next day, Dear Woman. It was just like, wow. If it was the opposite, I don't know how I would feel. But because of that, it just was apparent that Dear Woman had to be top 5. Or I wasn't really sure until the end.
I mean, I will say this. There were 13 episodes, and there were only 2 that I didn't like. Like, even Hakel's Tale, it like, got away from them by the end. But, like, again, the ambience and the atmosphere, it was creepy as fuck for a good portion of it. I'm like, is this guy trying to, have this fucking young buck cuck him? Like, what the fuck is going on here? Are they serial killers and they're gonna tear his face off? Anyways, I was really glad we did this. I'm having never seen any of them before. It was a cool month to spend time on some horror shows.
Yeah, it's totally my thing too. Like, it's all director oriented. On Vudu, the episodes don't even tell you like Incident on and off a Mountain Road or Jennifer. It's just like
Joe Dante.
Yeah. It just like tells you the director.
Yeah, I yelled at it for being too much like
hell
you,
yeah.
That was my first thing. As soon as I saw that on Buddha, I'm like, what the fuck, is Kevin in charge of this shit?
Yeah, the Masters of War.
This son of a bitch, get the fucking
Give me the
director's
dirt.
names off here. I need the name of the fucking movie, please.
Yeah.
All right, before we get into everything else we've been doing this last month, next month we're going to be doing season 2 for our
We
podcast,
will not be as happy as we are right in this moment.
Yeah, that's. I've heard there's like a handful of really good ones, and then the majority of them just aren't as good as season 1.
I will be surprised if... I think at least 2 of us are going to have the same one for number 1, and possibly all 3 of us. I think there's one truly standout, and I think there's other good ones, and then there's more bad ones than there was in season 1. I don't know if there's going to be a universal chocolate, though, because chocolate ranked in all of our bottom 2. So, yeah.
Yeah. If Fairhaired Child was pretty...
Did Mick Garris do one in season 2?
That I've only watched season 2 like
I think so.
once or twice, aside from a few episodes. So I'm going to kind of come into it a little sketchy. I have a couple episodes that I'm super excited about, but I don't remember a good chunk of them. So, yeah. Although we're all in for a treat for the Washingtonians. I know it's very low rated, but damn it, Kevin, if you don't love the Washingtonians, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. It's the 12th episode.
Number 12. And then after we do this, you're gonna hand out episodes.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna do our final little bit.
Yeah. What else has everybody been up to over the last month?
I can be quick. I watched Royal Rumble last night with two guys that I've played games with every once in a while. Like, I don't even know where the fuck they live. Like, someplace on the East Coast. But they're friends, and one of their female friends also joined. And so it was watching a Royal Rumble, remotely together. It was kind of a neat experience because everything kind of fell through in my own real world here. Like, shit just happened, so it didn't. So it was like a nice alternative, and I had fun. It wasn't a great Royal Rumble, but it was fun. It was just a different experience of doing that. So that was fun. Football was fun until the past weekend, and now football's no longer fun again until September. And I finally finished Fear the Walking Dead. And I'll just say this. I think I'd rather watch Chocolate 3 times in a row than to watch the last 6 episodes of Fear the Walking Dead. That is what I will say. The writing was terrible, and it was kind of like, okay, we made a deal, and then, I changed my mind. The deal is off. Now we're going to switch the paradigm around, and now we have a deal. Well, one person changes the deal. It was just this back and forth bullshit, and towards the very end, I'm realizing I'm looking at the women's hair. Now, at this point in the show, like, there's been a fucking nuclear explosion, there's fucking walkers, there's all this shit. And these girls are walking around like they just came out of the fucking hair salon. Like, it is pristine hair. It just took me so fucking far out of the original premise of what Walking Dead was, and the original premise that Fear the Walking Dead was going to give us a different perspective. Well, a different perspective is after nuclear fucking explosion, girls walk around with pristine hair. That's what I fucking learned, and fucking, I'm glad that fucking series is dead. Just fucking dead. And yeah. The one last thing, I tried watching, I haven't finished, and it's not because I didn't want to, but ran out of time. I did start, the Joaquin Phoenix movie that me and Kevin talked about. Bo. Yeah. I got like
Bo is Afraid?
An hour and 15 in, and I'm going to try to finish that tomorrow. I really love everything I've seen so far. What a crazy fucking movie, and it's totally my type of movie. So I like Nathan Lane. I was really happy to see him. That movie's living up to whatever hype I did have in my head, to be fair. And I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3. Really long game. I don't know when I'll probably be fucking summertime before I ever beat the fucking long-ass game. Like, I've heard people say it's like 100 or 200 hours. I'm like, holy fuck. So I play like a few hours with Eric like once a week, and then I've been playing like, that save file and then a different save file, and it's just such a long game, and I'm
My mom plays it over and over again, dude, and she has something like 1,700 hours into it already.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Good on her, man. Fuck.
Yeah. How long has it been out?
It came out, well, I mean, I bought it in 2000 when it hit early access, but it just released fully in August. So almost probably 2,000 hours since August for her.
And that was only for PC. Xbox,
Nice.
it took longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
November or December,
Yeah, it came
one
out
or the
in,
other.
what,
I can't
November?
remember. And yeah, it's fun, but looking back, I know we're getting off like on a video game thing, but like it's from the same people that made the Divinity games, and I think I prefer Divinity only because even though they're long, they're still shorter than fucking Baldur's Gate. Wow, just a huge, ginormous game. And it's great for people that want to sink time in, like Chris's mom, which apparently, like, she is getting her fucking money's worth, and that's cool. That's cool. So that's it for me.
Especially because she didn't
Eric
buy
bought
it.
it
Jay
for
bought
me,
it for
so,
her. So
I'm in the same boat with her. Okay.
Nice. Good job, Jay.
yeah. What about you, Kevin?
Okay, so what have I been watching? Well, I started. So I did watch. I Know This Must Be True. The series by Derek Kinefanz, because I just watched my Derek Kinefanz films, or Science France. The HBO 6-part miniseries. Have you seen that with Mark Ruffalo plays twins? It's super depressing.
I have not.
Dry. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But like not for everyone. It's like Derek Seinfranz did Blue Valentine and Place Beyond the Pines. As you guys mentioned, dramas that I don't know if you guys like Place Beyond the Pines, but they're uncomfortably depressing, not like over the top, but kind of like based in reality. And Place Beyond the Pines is
Wasn't it filmed in Schenectady? Yeah.
Yes, that's what Place Beyond the Pines translates to in Native American. So that was cool to go through all of that, and then I watched 3 episodes. Like, you know, I get out of work at 11 p.m. I watch episode, and then Friday came along. I finished episode 3. Saturday I went and saw Poor Things with Mark Ruffalo, and that's a whole other kind of part for him for anything he's done, or for anyone really. But that is up there with like best movies of the year for me. It's like sort of like early 90s, maybe late 80s Tim Burton kind of fantasy sort of stuff, but like with an NC-17 rating, with like throw in like Frankenstein. It's awesome. It's not rated NC-17. It's just got a lot of sex in it, and I think in the 90s, early 90s, if Tim Burton came out with that, it would have gotten an NC-17 rating. So yeah, Poor Things is amazing, and I highly recommend it. I even went to the theater. Me and my girlfriend went to go see it for our anniversary, and we went to like Hooksett, which is like an hour away, and the audience was mostly older women, and it was just like a really cool movie to see with like a great audience. Where people are laughing and gasping, and you know, they're laughing at things I'm not laughing at. I'm laughing at things that they're gasping at or not laughing at all. And some of it was a little too uncomfortable. But yeah, I'm not like the biggest Emma Stone fan, but I am now. And my prediction for Best Actress. Yeah, I'm gonna be catching up with the Oscar Best Picture nominated movies. Today, actually, I watched Oppenheimer again. My girlfriend hasn't seen it, so I went back and watched that again. And yeah, also, it's probably out of the 5 I've seen, Oppenheimer's probably number 3. But yeah, I haven't done a lot of horror, but we did the Masters of Horror, so that was. I wanted to watch movies by all of the directors. So I think I might kind of get into that, I definitely need to watch a Dario Argento movie before I start season 2. Actually, I'll just end with this short story. My friend and I, we do movie nights, and we kind of did a quick Sunday movie because he got this movie called The Evil Within, directed by Andrew Getty from, it came out in 2015. But have you guys heard of this movie, The Evil Within?
Was that the Sean Patrick Flannery one?
Yes. Yes, it is. And Dina Meyer. Okay, so you've heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my friend, got this movie, and he's wanted me to see it, and we were going to do it for the next big movie night where we had people over. But he's like, I want to watch it before then. So I was like, okay, cool. And he told me that it was this dude who was on meth, or he sent me a tagline of a headline. I didn't read the article, but I saw that there was meth in the article, and I was like, oh, we should do a speedball double feature. So he did from The Evil Within, which really isn't a drug movie, but it is about a crazy horror film about psychosis. It's insane movie. It's really weird. And then I brought Permanent Midnight, the Ben Stiller, Elizabeth Hurley
Jesus,
movie. Based on Jerry Stahl, who wrote for Elf, and being a heroin addict writing for Hollywood. So we did a speedball double feature, and then we did one more movie which didn't really have anything to do with drugs at all, but Assholes. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
2017, maybe 2020. Dude, it's so fucking weird. I don't even know how to explain it. It's a really low budget comedy. It's kind of like the next coming of John Waters, from John Waters' earlier work. It's so good. But it's a really weird, offbeat movie that, and my friend Isaac, who we do these movie nights, he said he randomly saw The Evil Within on Amazon Prime, and the same thing with Assholes, and I don't think those movies are... I don't think Assholes is on anything, but yeah, The Evil Within, I think, might be on, I don't know, Tubi or something, but... That was, both of them were great wild ride films. And Assholes is only 72 minutes of your life, and it's exactly my kind of favorite vulgar kind of comedy.
Kevin, have you ever seen The Greasy Strangler?
Yeah,
I fucking knew it, man.
My friend Isaac showed that to me. It was the first movie night we did.
No.
So, what about you, Kent? I as far as before Kevin, I was the only person I ever knew who saw this movie, and I was thinking about this when you started talking about it. I'm like, God, that would be a perfect movie for Kevin's movie night.
It was my first movie night with Isaac. Yeah, he said that too. He's like, I showed these guys The Greasy Strangler. I was like, oh, that was the first one. And he goes, oh yeah, that's usually the first one I'll show people to see. It's a good middle ground. It's kind of weird, but it's not super hardcore sexual, and it's more just quirky.
I remember watching it, and I looked at a review afterwards, and there was there's two parts of your life. There's your life before you saw The Greasy Strangler, and then there's your life after you saw this movie. I was like, well, I mean, I guess that's true over any movie, but I understood what he meant when I read that one. So,
you liked it?
Yeah, I liked it. It is fucking weird. I would definitely not recommend it to anybody in my family, unless I was pissed at Jay. So maybe I'll be like, Jay, you should watch The Greasy Strangler.
You don't think Jay would like that?
I think he's probably gotten much more... I don't even know if he watches movies anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going back to school, so... Anyways, anything else, Kevin?
No, I think the Greasy Strangler segue was great. Over to you, Chris.
So, outside of Masters of Horror, I didn't really hit too much horror this since our last podcast. I watched a couple things with my wife. We watched Reacher Season 2, which was not as good as Reacher Season 1. It was still pretty good. Shit, I watched something else with it. We just watched Echo on Marvel, or I should say Disney Plus. That was actually pretty good, and it was made in conjunction with the Choctaw Indian tribe, Native American tribe. So it was, it had an authenticity that you rarely see out of like local productions. Like I'm thinking back to like The Broken Chain when they made that up by us when we were growing up. It wasn't anywhere near as bad as like a lot of people are putting it out to be. I also watched a show on Netflix called Blue Eyed Samurai, which I fucking loved. If you guys haven't seen that, it was animated. Kind of reminded me of the style that they did for Arcane when they did that. Not quite the same, but they used like mocap for people and then used like a very painterly style of animation over top of them. I can't recommend that highly enough. Those were the big ones that I wanted to put out. I finally finished Fubar, which I started watching, right when it came out and just finished it. Which I thought was pretty funny. Arnie still has some good comedic chops. But a good portion of just my viewing time was taken up by this project. I tried to do one a night instead of binging it because I found that I think that worked a little better for my list than it would have if I watched, all 13 in one day.
Don't be a hater.
No, I mean, like, I think it was easier to think about and, reflect.
And not change your list 17 times over the course of an hour.
I like the fact, and like I mentioned this to Kevin, and he brought it back up too, is like, each one I saw was making me reevaluate my whole ranking, move this one up, move this one down kind of thing. So,
well, I got some news for you.
Yeah,
while you guys have been talking, I compiled the numbers, and I can tell you how they all rank based on a combination average of all of our three rankings. Would you guys like to know?
Yeah, so what is Contour at Your Own Risks overall ranking?
All right. So, number 13, last place. We all know chocolate. Tied for 11th was Dance of the Dead and Fair-Haired Child. Coming at number 10, Sick Girl. Tied for 8th was Hakel's Tale and Homecoming. Number 7, Incident on and Off a Mountain Road. Number 6, Dreams in the Witch House. Tied for 4 was Jennifer and Pick Me Up. Number 3 was Dear Woman. Number 2 was Imprint. And number 1 was Cigarette Burns.
That actually sounds like a pretty correct.
Like, it's not a bad list at all. Like, I can't sit here and be like, well, I would change. It'd be squabbling at that point. Like, it's a pretty good, solid ranking list. I like it. So.
Yeah, actually, I do too. I'm like, oh yeah, I would have put that one, high. But the ones that are a little bit higher,
Yeah, I'm not.
Dance of the Dead still at the bottom.
Right, like, I'm not outraged by how the numbers came out. Normally I'm outraged. I'm okay with everything.
And because of it, too, like, there is something for everything. We generally really all liked Cigarette Burns and Imprint a lot.
And Dear Woman. Dear Woman was...
Dear Woman. Yeah, was it number 3?
It was number 3, yeah. I think so.
I'm great with that.
Yeah, like, I'm super excited, so, yeah, it was cool. So that is how the numbers came out for compilation purposes.
All right. Do you guys have anything else you want to add, or can we wrap it up?
We can wrap it up as far as I'm concerned.
The Beekeeper rules, by the way.
Did you see it?
Oh yeah, I'm a big David Ayer fan, and it, you know, him helming a Jason Statham project.
On the Beekeeper.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I mean, it's a B movie, like through and through. I'm not even trying to be funny, but it's like every time you say that, like, oh, it's a B movie because the acting is, yeah, like you're like, ooh. First scene is like, ooh.
You know what?
By the end of it, it's great.
I watched Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, which I find funny that they didn't change the name since there's no Part 2 now. Today, and it was pretty good. It wasn't as good as the last one right before it, but it was up there. I mean, that's one that, like, my wife and I were talking about, where, like, up until about 5 or 6, you know, each one was almost like a different movie, you know, with a different director. I mean, obviously, but, you know, like Mission Impossible 1 with De Palma was significantly different than Mission Impossible 2 with John Woo, or Part 3 with what's his name?
J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams. Thank you. You know, so it was interesting, you know, but yeah, it was pretty good. Not quite the best, but I enjoyed it.
It was almost like they were going to do like James Bond kind, you know, not exactly, but like, you know, still Tom Cruise, but, you know, like different. They all had different like feels.
Yes, very much so. All right, guys. Well, like I said, we'll be back next month for Masters of Horror Season 2. I had a blast with this, and thank you, Kevin and Kent, and Internet. See you later.
See ya.
I'm gone like David Gordon Green.
And $400 million?
$400 million later.